You may sit, ladies and gentlemen. It is yet another beautiful day, ladies and gentlemen. I'd like to welcome you all once more to the Learning Environment Safety Summit. We're still streaming live from the Tshwane University of Technology at the Mbombela campus. Ladies and gentlemen, allow me to acknowledge my dignitaries. They are the National Deputy Commissioners, the Provincial Commissioners, Acting Provincial Commissioners, Deputy Provincial Commissioners, heads of entities, stakeholders respectively, distinguished guests, and a special shout out to our learners. Hey yo. Hey. Hey yo. Yay. Okay, as we move along into day 2 of our program, may I please be given permission to go into day 2. We're going to start with prayer and scripture reading, and I'd like to call upon Reverend Tumelo Mofugeng. Give him a big round of applause, ladies and gentlemen. You may clap until he stands in front.
Protocol is observed. Let me greet you all in the powerful name of our Lord Jesus Christ. Amen. Even today, Jesus is still Lord. Let me say a prayer. Dear Heavenly Father, in the powerful name of our Lord Jesus Christ, we thank you for this beautiful day. We thank you for all that you have done in our lives. We thank you for the mercy you have set in our lives, because we know that if you are here, we can conquer everything. We thank you for your love. We thank you for all that you have done, Lord, in the mighty name of Jesus. We know when we include you in our plans, everything will go well. We're calling you to be part of us. We're calling you that you may lead us in the mighty name of Jesus. Lord, we thank you in all that you have done. We thank you that we managed to see this day because of your grace. If it was not for your grace, we would have not seen this day, but all went well because of your grace. We thank you, Lord. Bless us abundantly in Jesus' mighty name's sake. We thank you, Lord. Amen. Today we'll be receiving our scripture from the book of Genesis, Genesis chapter 1 verse 3, and it reads as follows. And God said, "Let there be light," and there was light. Let there be light, and there was light. Fellow colleagues, this symbolizes that in everything that we do, when we include God in our plans, all goes well, because with God, nothing is impossible. Only with the word, all went well. In the beginning, there was darkness. In the beginning, there was no light. In the beginning, everything was shapeless. But because of God being in our plans, he just commanded that let there be light, and there was light. As the light rose and came by, all went well, only because of the word. So we are given power by the word. So by the power invested inside us today, in the project that we're about to run, in the summit that we're about to be on, I'm saying and instructing that may it have light inside it. May it go well, because with God inside, everything goes well. So we're instructing the light of God to be part of us, part of our plans. Some people, maybe they may not see direction in their lives. They might feel that life is difficult itself. But with the presence of God inside, today, with the powers that God has invested inside us, we're saying, let there be light in everything that we are going to do. As we're about to depart, going back to the stations, everything we touch, may there be light inside it. May God strengthen and show light upon in everything that we do, in the plans that we have, all good plans that we are planning. May there be light in Jesus' mighty name's sake, because we know that with God nothing is impossible. With God all shall be well. So we pleading and asking that God, in all that we are doing, we involving you and calling upon you to say, let there be light, let there be light, let there be light. In all provinces, in all the world, may all go well. Peace to be there, because of we are commanding and pleading to the Lord that may you show yourself in our plans. May you bless us, grace us abundantly in the powerful name of our Lord Jesus Christ. Father Lord, we thank you for your love. We thank you for your day. We thank you for your word, that there may be light in our lives, that today there will be something special in our lives, because of you never cease to disappoint us, but you are a Lord that always blesses at all times. You are a Lord that shows love to your kids in the mighty name of Jesus. I know the projects shall go well. I know your hand shall be upon the women in blue and the men in blue. I know that there shall be difference and changes in our lives in the mighty name of Jesus, because whoever calls upon your name, all goes right. Right now, no weapon formulated against each and every one of us shall prosper in the powerful name of our Lord Jesus. We thank you for the love that you have set upon our lives, your mercy, your grace that you have shown upon our lives. We thank you, oh Lord, for all that you have done. Bless us, bless us, bless us abundantly. Do and show us your mercy. All of this we ask in the powerful name of our Lord Jesus Christ. We thank you, Lord, in Jesus' powerful name's sake. Amen.
Thank you very much, Mr. Bofokeng, Reverend Mfokeng. We also pray for the light to shine upon us as APS so that we can see those criminals. Okay, moving along with the program, I'm going to request Umbis Tsebi to come forward and present to us. She is from the Higher Health. Please give her a big round of applause, ladies and gentlemen.
Otherwise, I can just...
Okay, she's requesting for a presentation to be projected up in front, please. Communications, please, may we have some music while we wait for the computer to be set up. Or rather, those that are not vocally wounded may start a song for us, please. So nonke niyabhimba vele. Is it possible to get some music? There's no DJ. Wow. Okay, Mr. Bisile, we are ready when you are.
Thank you, everybody, and morning to everybody. I'd like to pay special respect to our organizers and program directors, and of course, special respect to our South African Police Services. Thank you so much for arranging this Learning Environment Safety Summit. And thank you so much for inviting Higher Health. I'm representing our professor and Dr. Ramnik Aliwali, who's not here, our CEO at Higher Health. And of course, we are representing higher education as an implementing agency for higher education in and around South Africa. I'm going to project my slides just in a few, but just to present myself, this is Cebisi Legubega. I am from Higher Health. I am the regional psychologist or the provincial psychologist for all Mpumalanga, TVET colleges and universities. As a supporting systems, you will be aware that the universities already have psychologists on board and social workers and nurses. So we're just a support structure in between to alleviate the load. And of course, in TVET colleges, you would know that there are no clinics on site compared to universities, and there are no structures or social services that are much as established as universities. So we are in that part just to mediate and also to just offer support in the TVET colleges. And of course, in the CET colleges, the CETs are your adult learning institutions. So those were called ABET institutions before. So we are primarily there, and then we help universities as well. You will see that we also work with all the stakeholders here, including SEDEC and Lifeline and other implementation agencies as well. So we are very excited to be part of this because we related so much to Commissions 1 and 3. That's where my colleague and I attended, and we've had discussions with the generals there, just to make sure that we are looking at higher education closely. And of course, as you will see, if you're in South Africa here, you'll see what is happening in our universities, and you'll see our vice chancellors in the media trying to mediate for the issues of funding, for the issues of residents, and for the issues of academic excellence in our universities. So we're literally here to make sure that students are supported, to make sure that they graduate. So that basically what we want to do is that as they enter university, they are educated, they are supported, and they're well informed. And we're the agency that does that. And throughout their university years, as they face challenges, we make sure that if a person needs prevention methods, we are there to support them. If a person needs mental health intervention, they don't have to drop out because they're experiencing depression and financial difficulties or family issues. We're here to support you as you graduate and, of course, as you excel in your degree or qualification. So we can make sure that there's retention and throughput and there's support throughout as you graduate. Please move to the next slide. So we are in Mpumalanga, in all other regions. You will see that we are in Ehlanzeni district, we're in Gatsibande, and we're in Kangala district. And these are the campuses that fall into our radar, that we have staff in the campuses already. So these higher education institutions, and we implement them. So in the campuses, you will see that we have CHWCs, which are campus health and wellness coordinators that work with the SLOs, so student liaison officers, to make sure that they can screen for issues and they can refer to the relevant stakeholders. And that includes the South African Police Services as well. We can move forward. And then we have all the universities in South Africa being supported. And you might ask yourself, how do we enter, right? So with the universities, you'll see that each department or each sector, even here in TUT, you'll have a psychologist department or a therapy department or nursing or clinic department, right? And then, of course, what happens is that they work 8 to 4 normally, and sometimes they have a waiting list. So that's where we come in, where they can actually call our emergency number when they're in the residence. They can actually call us, or they're off campus, or they're working from home because they're working online. So they can actually call us at Higher Health and say, we need a psychologist, we need a therapist, or we need a registered counselor, and we can actually mediate for that. So after our service, and also to just alleviate the load from the psychologist at the school. One of the other things that we mediate for, as the schools are commencing now, you'll see that there's a lot of strikes that are happening. So we also mediate from there. When the university structure, the internal structure, is focusing on internal matters, If students are not able to find working hours or appointments within working hours, we can actually be a mediator for that. And of course, we have reached out to private colleges. They refer to us via SEDEC, so Boston City campus, your Diamond Lane campus, and so forth, who don't have on-site psychologists. So they also reach out to us. And of course, the most amazing thing about this is that it's a free service. So we don't have a contract to charge people. There's no invoice that is sent to people to say, well, your student came to Higher Health to ask for services. We literally give them for free so they can actually have access to counseling by a professional psychologist for free and be referred to stakeholders so they can continue with their education. Please move forward. And these are the core services. And this is very important to note so that we can refer our students accordingly. We have HIV, TB, and STIs. Those are done in our mobile clinic, and we have professional nurses that we dispense around campuses. You'll see on outside, we'll have tents there written Higher Health, and our vehicle will be there to make sure that students are cleaned. And we have and they really trust our services to make sure that they don't have to go to the line at the clinic. That's what we want to do. We want to say, if you're on campus, you don't have to delay school or say, I couldn't come to school because I had this illness. We say we bring the services to the schools to you, so they do the screening, and of course, sexual and reproductive health, maternal health, and contraception, very important. And of course, gender-based violence, which is one of the things that we discussed in the commission, and I'll talk in length about that as well. We have mental health, and as we know, very big in our country, and it's an issue that is really affecting everybody that we need to tackle. And of course, we take a very preventative stance rather than a reactive one. We don't want to come in once a suicide has been completed. We want to educate, we want to promote, and we want to say there's help, you can talk about it. And we want to reach out to male students as well. We don't often consult with our services to say, there is access, you can actually come and speak to somebody about the difficulties that you're facing at home that are impacting your school, and so on and so forth. Of course, we've got the LGBTQIA community, which we literally would want to raise more awareness on. We need to protect our brothers and sisters who are within this community and that are victimized and killed every day unlawfully. Okay, and then of course, alcohol and drug abuse prevention, and the last part is disability. With the disability part, I'd like to extend. So what happens is that we all have, in all the provinces in South Africa, we have schools that are specifically for learners with learning disabilities and special disabilities, right? And we have schools with learners that have neurological dysfunctions, right? And what happens is that they're not taken through into higher education. You'll see that the students who have severe disabilities go up to grade 0 to grade 9, right? And then they graduate with the grade 9 and they do practical subjects. After grade 9, they have to be integrated into TVET colleges or colleges where they do handwork, right? So much more practical work because they can't go into the mainstream matric. And then you have another division of learning disabilities where a child goes from 0 to matric, and they can actually get to matric, and then they have to be integrated again into university, but via the disability stream of the university. The university and TUTs and TVETs have to be mindful of these children who present with learning disabilities because they have to have concessions, they have to have exemptions, they have to have a psychologist supporting them, and they also have to have assistive devices, and that means glasses, braille, a body system, a different computer, how to learn online, every lecture adjusted to their needs. So we can't neglect the disability part. And these students are in our universities and in our midst. And later, they need to be integrated into our jobs. You'll see that government departments are very good at this because they say disabled people or people living with disabilities are encouraged to apply, and there's different sector for it. We cannot ignore the students who are at university and are living with disabilities. Very important. Please move forward. And then, of course, how do we work at Higher Health? How do we implement this, and how does it look like? So you'll have a self-help service. Self-help just means that you are aware of your symptoms, you're aware of what is happening, and you can actually call somebody. You can tell mom, I'm not feeling well. I haven't been well for the past 2 months. I can tell my husband, whoever, and then I can call the number myself. So I'm assisting myself. And then the second part will be mental health screening that is done at every campus. So you'll see when we do our activations, we actually have a screening form, and then students can answer. Under mental health, how have you been? How have you been experiencing symptoms under GBV? Are you feeling safe with your partner? Are you in a relationship that you have given consent to? Do you sometimes feel like you're pressured to have sex? We ask all those questions, which can be personal. And of course, we ask this in a very respectful and confidential manner. And of course, we'll have a peer-to-peer program that we do at our centers. And of course, once a person has been screened, they are referred to the relevant bodies. After that, we have referral system, and that's where we all come in as stakeholders. And as discussed in our commissions, what do we do for GBV? Where do we refer? And what does TUT say in their policy about referral to GBV? What stakeholders do you guys contact? Who's the first line of contact? Is there an emergency number that students call? Does it work for on-campus and off-campus? After they've called the emergency number, who's at the end? Is it the registered counselor, social worker, or psychologist who's able to screen and contain that person? I hear your call, come down, this is what we're gonna do. First, who's at the house, who's with you, what are your surroundings, and this is what you should do. A person who's compassionate and can actually calm the victim down so that they don't do anything that could compromise their safety, okay? So it needs a person at the end of the call, and universities must establish that task team that says who responds firstly. Okay, we need to very be important that a person who responds to that crisis call is very compassionate and can actually work with the person. And then I'm talking about intimate partner violence and a person who's a danger as well. And of course, we know human trafficking. And then of course, we move on to the SADC as well, our partner as well in terms of the emergency number. You can take it down, it's 0800 36 36 36. All access to students, and like I said, it's free. The person who answers for higher health, just to make it clear, is a registered counselor or psychologist sometimes who answers the emergency number because they're able to contain the client. For example, in a active suicide case, the person is counseled as the case is being managed. So if they have a poison in their hand, you have to be professionally trained to make sure that the person doesn't ingest the poison or doesn't stab themselves with a knife or doesn't, God forbid, murder the whole family. So it's a very, very intense service, but it has worked wonders for our students. All the students who have called through have received assistance, and we're very grateful for the service. And of course, we have all the sectors that are providing help, which are professionals. You can move forward. How do we implement these services, and what does it look like, if you're wondering? So we have face-to-face sessions. So I will be a psychologist seeing the provincial TVETs at Mpumalanga. And of course, I'll be driving to Nelspruit campus, I'll drive to Mashishing campus or Liedenberg, and I'll drive to Timber campus, for example. And of course, the student service office based at each campus will be the mediator. Where the CHWC is based will be where the screening takes place and the person is referred. If I'm not able to be at a particular campus because I'm one person at this point in time, I'm able to see the person online. Students have been very welcoming of online counseling as well. And of course, just telephone counseling, which really has improved our access to them. And of course, we've got group supports and workshops. You'll see that in most cases, students do not have sort of like life orientation and services that were provided in high school before, so they don't continue. So we need that. And of course, another thing that we're finding is that students who were taking medication from maybe grade 9 to grade 12, for example, I'm on medication for ADHD, go on to university and don't continue their treatment because, it's not cool anymore. And sometimes it's for positive reasons. They've learned to adjust with their condition, they've learned to adapt to better learning styles, and they can actually catch on. So we sort of like look closely at those students to make them manage and to help them cope better at university. And of course, we'll have these kinds of inductions happening. So where we enter at TVETs and universities is during the registration process, so that we can capture the first year students to provide prevention and promotion services so that they're informed, and also to partner with them and to create accountability partners. And that just means that because you're leaving home, you could be leaving Natal, you could be leaving Mpumalanga, wherever to go to Cape Town, you don't have a support system with you. So we become that student support system, and then we link them to the support systems in the campus so they don't fall into wrong hands when they're away from home. Please move forward. Then, of course, where do we get our referrals and how does it happen that we get the referrals? We've got CHWCs on campus, and of course, we have referrals from higher learning institutions as needed. Our nurses also screen and then they refer, and then we've got school license officers that are based on each campus, and then we've got lecturers who also refer. Lecturers are very important as our source of support. Because what happens is that because we're wanting retention and throughput in universities, what happens is that a lecturer would be the first person who's aware how their class is performing. If he's doing accounting 101 and 50% of the class has failed, there has to be an integration in terms of what is happening, what are the barriers to learning, what are the barriers that are social support barriers. Is the student well integrated into the university? Is there an underlying learning disability? Are they misaligned with their career so that we can provide career services? Those are very important things that universities need to look at, and of course, psychologists can help in there, and of course, career development officers can help. And of course, we've got the higher health 24-hour line that I've shared. Very important, this slide. What are the most common issues faced by students? What are we looking at every day in our statistics, and what are we worried about, and what are we trying to do every year to prevent these things from taking our students and prevent these things from being exacerbated or perpetuated further to form syndromes? So we're looking at anxiety is the first part, and of course I think we all can relate with anxiety. Sort of like a constant feeling of uncertainty, instability, and unbalance, a constant feeling of fear, of dreading threat, like a dread, sort of like something bad is going to happen, and I can't control it. I won't have the power to control it. I won't have the means to control it. Nobody's going to help me control it. So I'm just going to explode, Obviously, a person can't focus like that. Everything, they become edgy and they become agitated. They can't eat, they can't sleep, they can't think, they can't process, they can't focus. It's not going to be a conducive learning environment for that person in their mind. So they need calming techniques, they need coping skills, they need a support system, they need a hand, they need sensory devices that we can actually provide. Sort of like a stress ball. It's not something major. It's a stress ball, and of course they can have medication if it becomes severe. Anxiety is one of the leading things amongst first years, even throughout university, as you go to postgraduate. Even master's students and doctorate students experience anxiety, even lecturers, even us as professionals as well. So very important that we do that, and of course we know one of the leading causes, and of course the basics for the suicide rates that we're seeing across the country, and depression would be one. Very important that we screen for it. We always do screen for it. We'd like all our professionals to be able to screen for it as well. And we're not saying screen and then diagnose and take the job of the psychologist. We're saying that notice the symptoms and give the person an emergency number if you have to. Post it in your office if you feel like you don't want to be direct. Just post a higher health line number, just like how the SEPs have posted, and then the person will see. Post the symptoms there. Have a pop-up in your workstation. When people read emails, have a pop-up of emergency numbers. Have SADC there popping up, have higher health there popping up, have symptoms there listed so the person can actually start to see. Because sometimes we really don't see it because it sort of like grows and grows and grows. And of course, sometimes it's very hard to detect for other people because it's a feeling that can resemble and that can be present when a person has lost somebody. So during bereavement and loss, it can resemble symptoms of depression. During a breakup, you can resemble symptoms of depression. When I failed my prerequisite major, accounting, whatever, to finish my degree, I can resemble symptoms of depression. So it's very important that we screen and we can help people. And of course, we have anger management difficulties, gender-based violence, and sexual assault. I want to emphasize on this point. Where I am in Mpumalanga, when I'm serving the region, most of the cases for higher education that happen in gender-based violence circumstances happen outside of the campus. So they're not any crime that happens in most cases it's not within the campus. It's not I'm in class and then somebody is doing something to me. It's not I'm in the bathroom. It's literally outside of the campus. As I step out of the campus, whether I have a partner or I have a friend or whoever, as I mingle within the community surrounding TUT. So I go to ShopRite, and then I go to my residence, I go to my hostel, or where I'm letting. Where I'm letted or renting. That is where most of the crime happens. That is where most of the community members who are not part of the university target our students, and that's very unfortunate. So we need the universities to make sure that they form alliance with the communities and of course the South African Police Services to help us in those circumstances, because that is where our students get targeted. And of course at homes as well. We know about financial difficulties, and we're all aware of the National Student Funding Scheme, which is NSFAS, and the difficulties there. We all know about the shortage of funding for our students, and of course, the ever-increasing demands and cost of living on our parents that we cannot afford to pay for other services we can provide for basic services. So we need to have compassion for the students who are struggling financially as well. And then, of course, conflict issues and grief. I'm not going to go through the whole list. You can move forward. One of the things that we're discussing in one of the commissions is GBV anti-drug campaigns. I think that was Commission 3 or Commission 1. And we're looking at, health and wellness, victim empowerment, bullying. We're looking at learners and student groups. We're also looking at international students and vulnerable students, And I said too, and we've attended a lot of GBV campaigns and social things, and I hope that in this forum and in these commissions, we can actually come up with a campaign that is strategic, that is streamlined, and that is standardized, that all sectors know what to do. You know that you can contact Tabisile from Higher Health, you know from SEPS who you're contacting in Mpumalanga, and we know from TUT who are we contacting to make sure that we prevent these things. That's what we need, and we need our students to be informed via the SRC, trickle it down to the residence assistants, to the hostel managers, to the landlords, whoever, so that we have it on paper and we can prevent it. In the room when they enter, they have all these details. Step number 1, call Higher Health or call SEPS. You will be greeted by a counselor or psychologist. Step number 2, stay in your room or however find safety. Step number 3, press the panic button. Like a step-by-step guide, guys, as well as anything that could be helpful for the student would be nice. Of course, in the university structure, how it looks like and how we deliberated, and of course I can be corrected on this, like I said, because we've attended a lot of forums in this, and we just want to come up with a concise document that says this is what we do. So you'll have the GBV national policy that has been approved. The bill has been approved by President Cyril Ramaphosa, and of course we're now drafting the policy for each university. But now, because the deliberations have happened, I think all universities are on board with the draft of the policy. So you'll have it, you can access it online, and of course it has to be shared with all the institutions, adapted and incorporated in all the institutions. So every institution should have that policy. And it's not only for GBV, mental health and so on and so forth and other parties. And of course, the task team has to be established by the university or a coordinating team, steering committee team, however you call it, right? So that would include what happens in the clinic. If the case is first reported at the clinic, what does the nurse do? What does the nurse say? Is the nurse trained to handle these issues, or is the nurse say, oh, it's you with your boyfriends again? You know what I mean? And is that a good way to communicate to a person in distress, or is that going to deter the person away and they're never going to come back to the clinic, right? Sometimes it takes one person to just call up the whole system. Wellness center, is the wellness center going to be trained? Who's the person that's going to just say, a champion who's going to say, it's not nice when you enter a clinic and you say, can I please come for maternal things? And then they're like, oh, is it Sister Lamini today? Or is it Sister Nkosi? No, actually go to Sister though. There has to be a champion. I have to know This is where I go for maternal services, and it's written, it's clear, and the person is going to welcome me. That's what students need. And of course, as we know, if you're in a university settings, students work with time. They need to attend their lectures. They literally are here for education. So everything in between that they squeeze in is very important. And the services that they receive there has to be effective because they don't have much time. And of course, the security services, does the security services know what to do? If two people are fighting in a residence or in a hostel, what do they do? If a person says, an Uber tried to kidnap me, what does the security do? Are they informed technology? Are they informed human trafficking? Are they informed what to do in a university? And then of course, the residence services, do they know? Do landlords know? Do you know the landlords as the university? Are they in your register? Have you accredited them? Have you approved them? You've put them on the NSFAS system. NSFAS pays the landlord. Are you familiar with this? And are the students protected with those landlords? Have you checked the property? And then, of course, the counseling unit should also know what to do. The student union, the SRC, should know what to do if a student is in distress. They can go to any other person, and then any one of you can be the first contact. What are you going to do with that student in distress? What are you going to do to help that student? And where are you going to refer the students to? That's what they need to know. And is the help going to be effective? If students have a hospitable assistance, they will spread the word of mouth. They will tell their friend, no, stop silly. Go to the counseling unit, go to the SEPs, go to where I got help there, I promise you. They can even drag their friends. They can come and be companionship and take them to SEPs because they trust the service. So very important that we represent our services. And then of course the local stakeholders, because universities close, there's term vacations that happen, so we don't have access as professional services. Where do they go? And of course we know that nationally, SEPS is always open. So if universities' security services is closed, SEPS is open. What is SEP going to do that is going to be similar to what the university services would have done for the student? Are they in communication? Is there an MOU? Is there an agreement between local services, NPOs, and the universities? Or are we just going to say, yay, what does the university do? And what happens? Then, I don't know. You know what I mean? We have to have a joint partnership with the students. If I go home and I'm studying from home online, I can go to the clinic, I'll get the same services as I would get at the university. I cannot get a disjunct service, so it's very important that we do that. And of course, they can report to any of these services. We can report a rape to a psychologist. They can actually help you. We can report to your doctor. It doesn't have to be report to the police all the time, and students need to be informed about that. Of course, emergency toll-free lines should be visible at every campus. Every campus, wherever we go, because we're so used to these campaigns in health and promotion, we actually just check the campuses. We just look around and we see, in the toilet, what's written there? What's written at the entrance of the university? How can students help? If our students really just lost, what's at the residences? What's written at the residences? Is it a party poster, or is it a poster that explains what to do in a panic? Very important. And of course, communications and PR at every university have to account for that. And of course, we need parents to be involved as much as possible. Is the university in contact with the parents? Do they have Parents' Day? Do they inform parents about what happens to their students, and can they ensure safety? I'm not going to summarize too much on this to save time, but we have, in every referral that we get, 90% of the students really need the help. I'm talking about the Mpumalanga region. Every student that has said, I need help, has been referred, and they really do. And of course, students who seek help early, and that's our prevention and prevention services. Students who seek help early, recognize early, I'm having a learning disability, I come with it from high school, I was on medication, I'm no longer on medication, I did have this, I no longer have it, this and this, so we can help them. Please move forward. Please make sure that you do tell everybody that you're employed with. If they don't have medical aid, they can access their higher health line. It's free for employees, okay? I'll end here, and I think you can move. This is the helpline. I just wanted to leave you with this number. Please give it to students. It's 0800 36 36 36, and then that's the SMS number. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Bisile, and we apologize for cutting you short. But for me, I found a stakeholder that I'll be working with eternally because her core functions are actually my core functions. We police the LGBTIQ, we police substance abuse, we police people living with disability, the mental health patients, gender-based violence, sexual assaults, victim empowerment. So we have a long way to go, my darling. Thank you so much. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, the speakers that will be coming up on stage to do presentations and the commissions that will be coming up on stage, please be mindful of time. Today we have a short day. Some of our dignitaries and members are going back home. So some of them have booked their flights and we should be very conscious of time. Okay. Before I call the next representation, which will be rendered by Imemeza, I'm going to call upon Mr. Tami Mulife. He will be followed by the 4 representatives from the commissions. Please get ready. As soon as Mr. Mulife comes down, you will be expected to come and start doing your presentations. Let's give him a big round of applause, ladies and gentlemen.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. As I've already been introduced, my name is Tami Mulefe from an organization called Mbombela Child Crime Prevention. Happy? Please bring it here. Today, I'd love to present Mbombela as an organization that came, we would love to call ourselves that it's an organization that came up with the first public alarm system that we are deploying in our communities. Why we call it a first public alarm system is that we do not represent ourselves as a commercial security alarm systems. So we bring it to our communities in what way? By virtue of bringing it in a way that we bring sponsors in to bring it into our communities. That's why when we stand in front of you, we feel that this alarm system can be able to be used in our TVET colleges, in our universities, in what way? Because we believe in community policing. Community policing in what way? When we install this unit in our household, we install it in a way that we are going to expect our communities to be able to assist each other. We believe in motoke motokabat. We are able to assist each other when something happens. In distress, someone in distress is able to call by press of a button, be able to alert their surroundings. Alerting their surroundings in what way? We create what we call networks when we install this unit. Networks in what way? When we install it in perhaps a student's housing unit, we will, by press of a button, this person will be linked also to 3 networks that we'll be explaining right now. Our first network is to say, when something happens at this student's household, they're able to just press of a button, inform friends and family through communication of an SMS, inform their neighbors in an SMS communication, also inform the structures that we are speaking of right now, that we should create safety structures in our schools. We should be creating those structures in order for people to be able to cry for help. So if you look at it, this is the unit that we install in a household. The top button is in crime situations. The crime situation, by press of a button, immediately about 15 messages go to that first network that I spoke of. Our second network, we did say, neighbors are the first people to see when something happens in your household. So what happens is that immediately, by press of a button, people will be able to receive that message. Receiving that message does not necessarily mean that these people are supposed to go out and endanger their lives. We say that when something happens in your household or in your room, your neighbor is the one to switch on the lights to hear or to become a point of reference when investigations go on. This person will be able to tell that I saw somebody going in this particular room, or I saw a handsome gentleman looking like me going in this particular room. And it will become a point of reference. Least but not least, we also seek to inform our local CPF and subs in these communities. In that way, we are creating those networks and coming and assisting somebody in distress. The second button that you see here, it's an emergency, a medical emergency button. And the third one, it is a fire emergency button. In that way, people are able to communicate to our local CPF and SAPs whenever they are in distress. This unit, we feel that we've already deployed about 3,000 of these units in our communities. Yes, we are based in Johannesburg. However, we've seen a lot of callings from other provinces to say, please come and assist us with your memeza. In that way, communities and schools are using this unit in order to react to crime situations. Ladies and gentlemen, we also not necessarily are presenting this memeza that we would love to install in our schools, but we also have this small one. This small one does not report anywhere, colleagues, but it has worked out wonders. We use this, deployed about 3,000 of these in the community of Diepsloot, that is a high crime zone in Gauteng. When we deployed this, we saw a reduction in crime in that area. This small one does not report anywhere, but we usually say that when people are in distress, feeling uncomfortable about that situation, by pull of this ripcord, someone is able to make that alarming sound. That alarming sound is to bring eyes to you. Eyes to you means that somebody will be able to tell when there is a problem. Somebody will be able to assist. Yes, we do not want people to endanger themselves, but we say that people are a point of reference whenever something happens. So we call out to our communities and the communities of our universities to say, please be able to assist them. This small one can be used as a keyring. Ladies put it on their handbags. Us men, we put it as a keyring. Kids put it on their school bags, and they are able to go home and come back from school with this and be able to alert their surroundings. By pull of this ripcord, it also has a light. For those going to school and going home late, and they are attacked by these perpetrators, by pull of this ripcord at the same time, giving out this flashing light, they are able to bring eyes to themselves and get people to assist them. Ladies and gentlemen, I would love to thank you to say, we are seeing this as a solution, as a solution in our TVET colleges, in our universities, because we've proven the method works in our communities, and these universities are there as part of the community. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Panic Man. Our next item, I'm going to request that Brigadier Pillay come forward to please introduce the commission's reporting back to the House. Thank you very much. Let's give a big round of applause.
Good morning to all provincial commissioners present, General Mohlala, the Divisional Commissioner in his absence, Visible Policing and Operational Support, all other generals, major generals, brigadiers, colleagues, our partners in this fight towards campus safety. A very good morning to you all protocol observed. My task this morning is to merely introduce all the commissions that will be presenting this morning. And maybe it's not safe to say, as a person writing strategy, I think that the time that was allocated to us was minimal. However, commissions did really try to do the best that they could. And I want to make it clear up front that the approach that we took yesterday was something that we don't always do, but we felt it necessary to circulate you around, which actually added value to the content that we did receive. So thank you for understanding the approach. And as I said, given the time that we had, it wasn't possible, because you would understand that we're going to have to develop a document out of that 4-hour conversation that we had. So thank you to everybody's contribution. The first commission is going to be the Commission on Community Policing, and they were tasked to look at the issues of GBV, vulnerable groups, international students, Project Harmony. So they also did do quite a bit of work, even though I must say everybody seemed to linger more towards Commission 1. Eventually we had to ask people to please go and have a conversation in other commissions. So I really think that maybe Commission 1 would have benefited a lot from this, but without really disadvantaging the other commissions, because we were able to control the situation thereafter. So I'm going to call on the Colonel from the Northern Cape to please come and do the presentation on Commission 1. Thank you.
Program Director, thank you very much for offering me the opportunity to present what Commission 1 was deliberating about. With the permission from our Lieutenant Generals, Provincial Commissioners, allow me to get straight to the point, seeing that we do not have enough time. Maybe before I get to the business of the day, we had to discuss what is community policing? And we got a lot of answers. And I was so pleased to find answers coming directly from our learners. But in a nutshell, we all decided and we know that community policing means the community coming together with the police to fight crime. Maybe the question we need to ask ourselves is, now that we know that community and police must come together to fight crime, do we have community policing existing in our institutions of learning? If we look at the task that we were given, was community policing within learning environment. First point was the issue of gender-based violence. We deliberated at length. The issue that came out very clearly, which one of the initiatives that we're going to do, was to review the sector policing framework, which needs to include and enhance the role of the institutions of higher learning. Because when we were discussing, it came out clear that we do not have the institutions of higher learning participating actively in community policing. In fact, if you look at what we're discussing is, the issue was more on the sector policing, to include in all station areas where institutions of higher learning are present, they must form part of that sector. So sector managers need to have that in their mind when they prepare for their duties. The next point was, we need to establish gender-based violence desk at all the institutions of higher learning. Currently, you will take note that it doesn't assist us a lot to have gender-based violence desks at police stations, but we do not have it at the institutions of higher learning. The stats have shown that GBV is also taking place a lot at these institutions. So if that's the case, what is their point of departure first to report? So we need to have these desks so that it can be a tool for whoever has been a victim to have the first-hand experience of reporting before they even encounter the police service. What we felt was also important is the education and awareness programs that must take place at these institutions of higher learning. If we were to ask mostly our social crime partners or coordinators that are here, it comes out very clear that very little, if it's done, happens at our institutions of higher learning. So we need to intensify those awareness campaigns, and we need to educate our students to understand GBV. What also came out was that we know that the police has the MOU with the Department of Basic Education, but we do not have the MOU with the Department of Higher Education. So which means there is a lack somewhere. As a commission, we decided to say it is imperative that we do compile the MOU with the Department of Higher Education, which will spell out exactly what must happen. It will also assist us so that we have the minimum requirement when it comes to the safety of our students at all universities, so that all deans of university will know, if I am accepting the students, these are the basic requirements that we must have. We will have to review the current school safety protocol, which will include the institutions of higher learning as well. We then had to deal with the issue of victim empowerment. We felt that it is important to create a conducive environment for reporting at these institutions. Somebody was saying, how do I report if I have been victimized in any way? We all spoke, but there was no standardized to say, okay, this is the process to follow. Safe to say that we know that we will call the police come, but before they arrive there, what are the other elements that would have been assisted us in terms of reporting? That would have assisted us also to mitigate this thing that is called secondary victimization, where you have to explain your whole story 5 times to 5 different people before you get assisted. Right, we also need to strengthen the relationship between the institutions and the hospitals. There was a point that was raised to say, we know for the service to be given to a victim, there must have been a case docket registered. So in some sense, that actually delays the process of the students, especially at the institutions, to receive medical treatment. So we said we need to strengthen those relationships. Maybe, for instance, if it's obvious that incident has taken place, but the case hasn't been reported, what assurance can we give to the Department of Health for them to assist the victim before they even get the case number? We need also to review the process of the protection orders, because they must protect victims. Now, this was at length a deliberation, because we felt that although the protection order is there to protect the victim, most of the time it's the victim that is removed from the house because of the victim's safety. It's very seldom for the perpetrator to be removed. On top of that, when the victim is removed, more especially if it's a female that is dependent on the husband, within an hour or so, to say, if I allow this to happen, then I won't have a support. So the feeling was, we must look into the whole package to say, how best can we actually improve the issue of the protection order to actually protect the victims? We felt that we must establish victim-friendly rooms at all police stations, as well as at the institutions of higher learning. Actually, the point came out after to say, even at schools, because that is where the incidents take place, so we need to have those victim-friendly rooms. Currently, we know the situation in our country that some police stations even don't have the rooms, but they have alternatives. But our feeling is that we need to have it as standard with the police stations as well as with the institutions. And on top of that, while we have those rooms, our officials and also our trainers must be trained exactly what to do when they are dealing with the victims. Because it doesn't help to have the whole infrastructure, but there is no warm bodies to do the job. There was an argument that, no, we do have police members that are trained, but the issue is not everyone who's trained specifically to deal with the victims is working 24/7. So that is a point we need to strengthify as well. All right, there was another feeling of the economic empowerment of the victims. The issue here was, if we take the victim to a place of safety for the period, let's say a month or 2, case is on, What are we doing to that victim? That is what normally happens. The victim ends up withdrawing the case because she knows that she still depends on the husband or the boyfriend for the financial support. The feeling was then that while they are at that center, can't we bring people that will give them technical skills or the trade so that when they come out from there, they can fend for themselves? And we need to have the mobile support for the victims of gender-based violence, as well as they must have access to the criminal justice system. The system must assist victims more than assisting the criminals. Then we had another point which we discussed. It was patriotic education. A lot of issues came out on this point, but we had to narrow it down to say, if we talk about patriotic education, what do we mean? It meant that we need to have education and awareness programs at the institutions of higher learning, focusing on influencing the behavioral change of learners. They need to know that whatever is at that institution belongs to them. They must have the sense of ownership, so that if they do have grievances, the grievances can be resolved in a proper manner. We must have programs that will instill moral and values from a young age. Here, there was a specific point to say, it doesn't help for us to come and train students when they are at TVET college or universities, but we didn't train them from home where we live. We didn't train them that you don't steal from the neighbor, you don't damage, you greet an adult. It must start from home, which means all of us as parents, we are also supposed to play a part in that role. And the feeling was even this must form part of the curriculum when they're at basic education. The issue of programs to activate active citizenry. Everybody must know that they are South Africans and every infrastructure of South Africa belongs to them, so they must protect, including when there is service delivery at universities or whatever the case may be, they must make sure that that property belongs to them, so they must be patriotic about that. Then we've got the issue of the Health and Wellness Center, the Health and Wellness Initiative. The previous presenter spoke a lot about mental health, so we felt that mental health education and awareness is important. We need to strengthen that. In fact, we need to have mental health practitioners at all our institutions. It will assist, whether it's for basic education or the higher institutions of learning. And then the programs must run continuously so that people can understand. When it comes to the issue of health, we know that a healthy body will actually breed a healthy mind. So we need the sporting activities to be brought back. When the youth or the students are active in sport, their mind is clear and they are taken away from all other issues that can derail them. All right, and then we also spoke about the issue of the primary health care, where we need regular health checkups at our universities and TVET colleges. Sometimes it's difficult, but it would have been better if each and every institution of learning can have a facility like that. I am happy when I heard that a lot of them do actually have that, but that was the point that we raised. We also said we must inculcate the culture of responsibility and accountability on health and wellness. It must come from within each and every individual at our institution to say, I must look after my health. The way I behave, the way I live my life, it must be in line with the healthy body, healthy mind. Then there was a point of the international students, vulnerable students / learners. We said we must mobilize the international student organizations to form part of the safety committees at our institutions, because that is a committee that will be responsible to discuss every issue that's got to do with the safety of learners at the institutions. When it comes to vulnerable groups, we must have access to educational services. This means the infrastructure that is there must be conducive to all walks of life. If I'm on the wheelchair, I must be able to access services. If I cannot see, there must be gadgets that will help me, and so forth. These are the examples that we are just making. And we must also have the capacity building for SAPS members, for teachers and lecturers to be able to assist vulnerable groups. There was an issue to say, if a person cannot talk or cannot hear, how are we assisting them? We can join hands together and say, the institutions of higher learning, they've got subjects where they teach. Can they form part with the SAPS to teach police members so that they can be able to be conversant? Then we do not need an interpreter when they report cases. If it's possible, why not? The accommodation facilities must also be conducive to the well-being of our disabled or challenged students. Program director, there was one slide that we discussed, but when they were capturing, they skipped. We had to discuss the project Harmony. Now, in a nutshell, we know that the police has had an issue where we use our band and our choristers, which is Mpumalanga, to do crime prevention through music. And it has escalated to the communities, and I know there are also schools that have joined partnership with the police, where we as the police, we end up even training them how to play some band as well as how to do the march. But this has never been escalated to the institutions of higher learning. So we said, because even the schools and the higher learning institutions, they have their own singing competitions. Why don't we join hands and then we make it work together? While we're doing that, it's sort of the partnership. But at length, the points that we deliberate will be captured on the presentation. All right, how are we going to do what we've spoken about at the top, and who is responsible for that? First, when it comes to the issue of the review of the sector policing framework, SAPS will take the lead, being assisted by the community police forums. Where we established GBV desk, the institutions of higher learning should lead, because we want those desks to be at their institutions, but then they'll be assisted by the police as well as the Department of Higher Education. I think there was a misprint here. It will be the Department of Higher Learning assisted by the police. Education and awareness programs on GPV, the police will be leading in that regard, but both departments of basic education and higher learning will be assisting. When it comes to the drafting of the Memorandum of Understanding, SAPS will lead, assisted by the Department of Higher Education. When it comes to the review of the current school safety protocol, the Department of Basic Education, the SAPS, as well as the National School Safety Forum will assist in order that the MOU, or in order that the school safety protocol is updated. To create a conducive environment for reporting, the institutions will lead, because we want them to have this protocol where we can report properly, assisted by SAPS. All right, when it comes to the strengthening of relationship between institutions and hospitals, the institutions will lead, then the Department of Health will assist. Obviously, where we have Department of Health in this regard, we'll find the police also assisting, because it's an initiative that came out of this summit. Review the process of protection orders to protect victims. The Department of Justice and Correctional Services combined with SAPS will run. Establishment of victim-friendly rooms at all police stations and institutions. It will be the SAPS that's leading, but then dealing with all the other, with the Department of Higher Learning. Economic empowerment of victims. We said Department of Social Development should come in. The SAPS will assist, the Department of Labor, the Department of Trade and Industry, and NYDA. All of them should play a role to see how best we can assist them. Mobilize support for victims to access criminal justice system. The Department of Justice and Correctional Services, together with the police and the Department of Higher Learning, will also assist. When it comes to the patriotic education and awareness programs, we said the police will assist, but we want the moral regeneration movements to take the lead, because we want to educate people's mind to love what belongs to this country. We said also the institutions will be involved. The mental health education and awareness, all the institutions of learning, SAPS and the Department of Social Development. With sports and recreation in all institutions, it will be the institutions involved, Department of Arts, Sports, Culture and Recreation, and the SAPS that will support them. Regular health checks at the institutions, it will be the institutions and the Department of Health, and also SAPS will assist. Responsibility and accountability on health and wellness. The institutions will lead, the Department of Health, the Department of Social Development will assist. When it comes to mobilization or mobilize international student organizations to form part of the safety committee institutions, we want the institutions of higher learning to come in together with the SAPS, and all our campus safety committees must be involved. To ensure access to educational services through infrastructure development and availability of resources, the institutions will be involved, and then the Department of Infrastructural Development, which we used to call PWD, so that we make sure that when we build universities, we take note of what must be there. The specifications should actually accommodate all the walks of life. Capacity building for SAPS teachers and lecturers to be able to assist vulnerable groups. We said the Department of Women, Youth, and People with Disabilities should assist, should take the lead, and the SAPS should come in, obviously, with the institutions, because they're able to know exactly how to deal with them. Right. In conclusion, the monitoring and evaluation will be done as part of the performance management system for the entire learning environment safety framework. The resource allocation, including the budget for each project, will be derived from the lead department. Inputs can be forwarded to our national head of strategic management so that the product could be thoroughly done. I thank you.
Thank you so much, Colonel. We appreciate your presentation, very meaningful. We're going to request Brigadier Pillay to come and conclude the presentations. Thank you.
Thank you, Colonel. Generals, I'm not sure whether there is any input that is a burning issue for the participants this morning. But I think key to especially Commission 1's presentation is that we have to engage with our representative that did the presentation from health this morning, because there are issues that they are currently dealing with that will definitely add value to the framework that we're about to develop. So having said that, I don't see any hands, but if there are, okay, there's a hand at the back. Generals, if I can just take that, please. General, sorry. Oh, sorry, General, I didn't see you. Can I allow you? And then there's somebody in green at the back there.
Thanks, Program Director. Generals, all protocols observed. Just to indicate appreciation for the presentation, and then just one or two comments on the last slides in terms of lead departments and so on, given that some of the departments who are mentioned to lead are not part of this. So maybe to avoid any gray area and so on, we should replace them with the SEPs who must, for the interim, lead the project and hand it over to the correct department, whether correctional service, justice, or whoever, after interacting with them and so on. That would complete those recommendations. Thank you very much.
Thank you, General.
Can I take the hand at the back, please?
Thank you so much, Captain. Good morning, Generals. And if I could also join in thanking and congratulating the Colonel, it can't have been easy. And I suppose because we were playing musical chairs, getting in, getting out, getting in, getting out, some of the things could have been not contributed to at the time it should have been. If I could just add on the issue of, I think it was economic empowerment, there is an option that is very underutilized that I think we need to take into account with protection orders, and that's the temporary monetary relief. In this situation, the applicant of the protection order can also apply that a temporary monetary relief be released with regard to the protection order, so that it goes into the continued renting or continued payment of the mortgage bond, and so on and so forth, food for the kids, and so on, traveling. So let us just bear in mind and keep it at the back of our minds that we should advise victims to also look at that option, because then it's a stopgap of what can be done immediately to mitigate some of the financial dependency issues. That's the one aspect. The other aspect relates to the establishment of the VFR. Could I propose that, since VFRs are very much in the domain of the institution involved, I'd like to propose that rather have the institution taking the lead on that matter. SAPS can support in providing advice on how to set it up, how to ensure that nobody else is there and there is privacy. Thank you. That's what I'd just like to submit.
Yeah, just a last comment on the review of the protection orders. Speaking under correction, but I think it has been reviewed, or in the last 2 weeks, there has been a new approach promulgated with regard to protection orders. So I think it would cover the issue of the review of protection orders.
Thank you, Program Director. Just maybe to add more on the point that Mamngat has made. On the establishment or the creation of victim-friendly rooms at institutions of higher learning, be it the technicons, the technical colleges, and universities. Cognizance of a meeting that took place of the minister with vice chancellors. Subsequent to that, there was then a meeting with TVET colleges, principals. The view from the minister, more of an expression, is that what these institutions need to do, need to create victim-friendly rooms on their side, that we apportion the responsibilities very clearly. Institutions of higher learning must therefore ensure that they create or they build or they partition, but within their space, they need to create victim-friendly rooms. That's their side. Now, on our side, now what SAPS then ought to do, SAPS ought to designate police officers to be a liaison between the police and the institutions. It came out like that, and that's how it should be understood. And the labor, demarcation of labor, who must do what, we must not be found wanting, because my fear is that if a minister can get here or get to police station, finds out that these things still have not done. I'm talking of a meeting that took place in 2019. So it's just some things that we just need to be aware with. But in addition to that, then what institutions of learning need to do on their part is to designate an officer from their side, somebody who is a liaising person, so that our officer does not talk to everybody at the institution. Must have a direct person, apart from the rector, somebody who's designated to, not a security guard or a security head or what, but somebody who's designated to deal with gender-based violence, who will be responsible also on gender mainstreaming on the side of the tertiary institutions that we're talking about, so that there's a clear line of communication and responsibility thereof. I thought I must be clear on that one, because it's a clear matter that was then put to us and then was agreed. Now, lastly, in terms of the securities, how must be laid out and all that, Private Security Regulatory Authority, CIRA, in this regard, and I hope they are here, because they were in that meeting, and the undertaking that they were then instructed to is to advise. You see, institutions may not know exactly how big must be the fence, how to prepare your contract with security companies. But then the idea was, because CIRA issues a letter of good standing to all the security companies in the country, is regulating them, we should feel free to liaise with CIRA, and CIRA must be able to provide such knowledge or such, assessment of every university in the country, so that we don't find what you call security companies overcharging the university even unnecessarily. These things are regulated. There are levels of security that is required at a certain parameters of the university. So you can't be all over. And the security companies must be able to be held responsible for that. That is just basically one clear instructions that were given. I thought I must bring up that so that they are also on record. We've demarcated who's responsible for what. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Program Director and the Brigadier there. I think, first of all, I want to thank the Commission. I think they've done their best. But what they were dealing with is something very, very, very crucial, because they were dealing with the party that deals more on the community side. The institution itself belongs to the community. Where it is situated is also where the communities are. The students of the higher learning, they belong or they're part of the community. So their safety started from outside before they come to school. So when they're at school is where they might also feel safe also where they are. So it means that our input going forward should start from the community. When this road is blocked by the community, the student cannot access this institution. So it is much important, the stakeholder engagement, like it's being highlighted by the Commission. So once they've moved in, how do we bring in the community to be part of problem solving within the structure itself where our kids who belong to the community, they are? Because if we block this road, our kids cannot access the institution. So there's so much that whatever we do, like National Commissioner was saying, that this institution now must form part of the sector or part of NESPRAID, making an example now, CPF structure there. So it will know the activity within the school that might disturb the functioning, safety of the students within the institution. Thank you very much, Program Director.
Thank you, Generals. Are there any other further questions? General, with your permission, can I move to Commission number 2? Oh, sorry, General. My apologies, sir. Can I move on to 2? Thank you. Okay. Commission number 2's responsibility was to deal with student demonstrations in policing. And here they had to look at SASRIA's responsibility, crowd management, and reaction protocol. Even in that commission, there was quite an intense conversation that was happening amongst the group. So it was also dominating in terms of the number of people that were there. And I did have a conversation with one of the brigadiers this morning. And I think the representative from the unions was very strong yesterday by giving us a message to say that us as police officers are the parents of these children who go to university level. So how can we be causing harm to those people? But I think that the members from POP will put into context some of the issues that they face when they have to engage with these students at these demonstrations. Because when they do then get to the scene, it's because all other levels of communication have failed. So in spite of the fact that we were requested to really take a different approach, we'll see what the Commission has decided on this. Thank you.
Thank you very much to our program director. Greetings to all the provincial commissioners that are present, our junior PCs, our DPCs, our provincial head, all protocol observed. I am Sergeant Litlojani, from Northwest Province, coordinating youth crime prevention desk in the province. I'll be presenting the Commission 2 that was highlighted by Brigadier Pillay. Can you, this is slide?
I will start with a slide by these words. The hardest work is working alone, but it's also the work that makes you the strongest. Introduction. The well-being of young people in South Africa is threatened through crime and violence in education institutions. Despite national effort to restore a culture of learning and teaching, incidents of theft, vandalism, burglaries, rape, and even murder are reported on learning institutions. I won't go through the slide to save time. The learning environment is contaminated through crime and violence, which jeopardize the educational process. The element of fear within an educational environment creates long-standing physical, emotional, and psychological implications for both lecturers and students. In relation to higher education, campus violence due to fees must fall campaigns has resuscitated a need of platform for engagement with the property in particular. Next slide, please. Legislative frameworks. We having our National Youth Policy 2020 to 2030, South African Constitution Act 108 of 1996, Regulation of Gathering Act 205 of 1993, South African Sports and Recreation Events Act 2 of 2010, Criminal Matters Amendment Act 18 of 2015, National Development Plan, Vision 2030, the National Drug Master Plans 2019 to 2024, and Community Policing Strategy, that takes us to high-risk community sector. Yeah, high-risk community sectors. Next slide, please. Our partnership in this commission, it will be South African Police Service, Department of Basic Education, Department of Higher Education, Department of Social Development, Department of Defense, Community Policing Forum, which is our CPFs, Department of Art and Culture, National Youth Development Agency, Department of Sports and Recreation, Civil Society Organization, religious groups, our Baruti, Sporting Federation and Association. Thank you, Captain. The commission highlighted the following. We identify challenges and their solutions. First challenges will be overcrowding, that the solutions will be Department of Education to have a plan in place to resolve. Police attitude, we'll be looking at the solution to SAPS to apply the law. We having again lack of intelligence. The solution of it will be the development early warning system. Lack of response time versus quick response to protest. Our solution will be empower members to deal with student complaints, social crime prevention training as well. Lack of crime prevention education by officers. Our solution will be the appointment of the correct people for social crime prevention and proper training. Next slide. We resolved the following. We identify project initiatives. We should as well, we had the question as well as to, is the existence legislation in place? Who should lead the project initiative? What dependencies? When should the project be initiated? And what sources are required? The first identified project initiative, it is the establishment of campuses, rather school safety crime prevention. I won't go through to save time, okay? The second identified project initiative will be development of sectoral policing structure for campuses. The third identification that we're having is to induct of SRCs, LRCs by SAPS, establishment of campuses safety desk. The next identify project is into implementation of outreach project, information and advocacy programs by SAPS in institution peer-to-peer education. The next identified project we're having is training of all intakes of social crime prevention. And this one will be the last one, establishment and implementation of best practice sharing session by all stakeholders. Our performance management system, it will be as follows. It will not be proper to invest time and resources if we do not ensure that we have performance management structures which will be able to assist us to assess if the resources allocated are used efficiently to ensure high-level impact on the targeted beneficiaries. A team of all primary stakeholders will be put in place to ensure that there is continuous monitoring and evaluation. While at a strategic level, a team of members from DPME and the relevant clusters will meet quarterly to assess the impact of these programs and advise on the review and implementation of the program. I will close on our presentation by giving you these words. If you fail, never give up, because fail time in learning and is not the end. In fact, and missed effort never dies. If you get no as an answer, remember no means next opportunity. Thank you very much.
Generals, I think that the National Commissioner has rubbed off on a few of our colleagues. They start with quotes and they end with quotes. And I'm glad to see that you carry the National Commissioner's passion. General, you made a comment earlier on with regards to the issue of consultation and where, because those departments were not present yesterday during the start of this engagement, that we should make SAPS the primary the key stakeholder for now until consultation takes place. And I think just a message for visible policing is that once the draft is handed over, there is a need for you to consult quite extensively to all other role players who you have not invited to this session so that they can realize their responsibility to the strategy. Because both Commissions 1 and Commissions 2 have indicated stakeholders who are not necessarily present here this morning. So thank you for that. Generals, can I check if there are any questions from the floor with regards to Commission number 2? I was, however, hoping that Brigadier from POPs, yes, thank you. You want to close off your presentation, Brigadier?
Please, General. Thank you, General. What I want to indicate is yesterday, the student representatives were very vocal about how public order police react to incidents of public violence. I think this must be put very clear that we know as public order police that for a fact that at the universities, there are processes and procedures on how the students should voice their concerns. There are also processes on how the students must liaise with the university about any problems they have. And those processes are followed at the university. When there is a deadlock now, the university is now frustrated about the situation. All the processes, everything has failed. The students took over the university. There is no control. The tires are burning. The classes are disrupted. The staff is frustrated. That is when now they are calling us now as public order police to maintain public order. We are not called there for a party. We are called to maintain a public order at the institution. So our arrival there, we cannot negotiate when there is chaos. We first have to maintain order. When there is order, we start negotiating. So what the student representative raised yesterday, they came with the last portion. They never talk about the first processes that when we are called when there's chaos. So the recommendation is let the internal processes of the university be followed before, in fact, if that can be followed and there's no chaos at the universities, we are not going to be called. Because when we are called, there's a court order which we need to execute. Thank you, Commissioner.
Am I going?
I think that is what Pops is saying and what is happening. But the issue here is, then we send Pops in, normalize situation, go back to the table, and then they agree. Now, the issue is, why must then be a toy before then they go back to the tables and then agree? Now, how then do we, that part, before it becomes a protest? I think that's one part that we need really to apply our minds to say, yes, we maintain law and order, public order. But somewhere, with all the processes that have happened, there was a disagreement. And then march out, and then the burning of tires and throwing stones at our vehicles. But after that, they go back again, and they agree. In 99.8% of all these incidents, the students and the university, after the protest, they agree. Why? Is there a way that we could then prevent that or avert that part? Let's take, for example, the simple, which is not a simple, the most that we see every day. This NF, I don't know what is it, the student loans. It's a problem every year. Every year it's a problem that we must come in and maintain order and restore order. Why is there no solution to the problem? Because every year, January, February, March, we have these problems. Are we not learning from that? Is there nothing that the stakeholders in that engagement, that party, are coming up with a solution before we come in as the police to stamp the authority of the state? But my understanding would have been, if you are going to study January next year, somewhere this year, the bursaries or this assistance must have been approved. And then come January the 2nd, then the monies are paid in to whatever institutions that you are supposed to be, if that is the case, of February. But why is it not happening that we must come in, and in that coming in, we lose our vehicles because they're gone for damages, many of them, and then again they come and decide, they sit down and agree. Perhaps that's the part that in this presentation should actually be answered. If we did not answer that, we must find time to answer that between the students and the institutions, because Utaduntur said the minister met with the vice chancellors in 2019 already. And there is a protocol. So obviously, we come at the last end, and I want to refer what you were saying. At what stage do we meet, do we come in the police, in the royal institutions to be part of these negotiations or engagement before it becomes a volatile situation? These are the issues that need this commission to go and put something on. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you. My name is Lerato and I'm from the Students' Union. I would like to again echo the sentiments that were raised by our president yesterday in what he was saying. We still stand by that. And before I even continue, I would just like to take this moment to think about all the lives, student activists that we have lost in these situations that you have mentioned. Every year after year, we have commemoration for policemen who have died in the line of duty. It's held by the union buildings year after year. However, we never take a moment to think about student activists who died on the line again of duty. As activists, it's our duty to stand up for these things and to ensure that those who come after us don't have to go through what we went through. So I'd just like to take this moment to actually think about those activists who have lost their lives to the cause. That is number one. Then number two, the second thing I'd also like to come to is I would agree with those sentiments that we need to also start engage on the before process. And on that, I thought I would have expected the commission to speak on this. Unfortunately, I was captivated in another commission. I spent too much time there and I didn't get the opportunity to attend commission number 2, which is the reason why most of the time we find ourselves in situations where things come to the point of protest is because from the student side, the issue that we are having is the amount and the level of, in inverted commas, lack of a better word, arrogance that institutions of higher learning have. So, and again, this is a conversation I'd like to reel in the institutions of higher learning with the VCs, University South Africa, to sit down with the minister, not only of higher education, but bring in also now SAPS and bring in SAPS, because at the end of the day, SAPS ends up getting involved. There needs to be an annual sitting before the beginning of the year, because most of our protests do happen at the beginning of the year, where there's a genuine engagement on how SAPS can assist in ensuring that we are not continually victimized by institutions of higher learning. Power dynamics. If we are being honest, the power dynamic is University South Africa has more power than South African Union of Students, and we are the same structures. That is representing the VCs and the university. This side is representing the students. The issue comes when SAPS steps in, and the first, like you were mentioning, your duty is to bring peace. And that point of peace comes very late in the talking process, and your peace now becomes the same destruction, doing the exact opposite of the benefit that you think that you are trying to initiate. So I think a genuine act could be before beginning of the year, towards the end of the year, an annual conference or an annual engagement where SAPS is brought in with University South Africa and engage those ones, because that is where the issue is. The issue is the posture it's more of a legal matter, so Kiraro SAPS can take it up. It's more of a legal matter is the record, especially in universities. I'm not sure about TVET colleges. It's difficult for me from the University of Pretoria, it's difficult for me now to want to go and enroll at TUT because there's a record against my name. And after that, a record against my name, that also now affects employment. I think there needs to be a relook at students who are suffering from that right now as we speak. There were some students who were arrested during Fees Must Fall. Like I said, police were grabbing whoever, taken to jail. Now you have a record. Those students till this day don't have jobs. I know a couple of those activists don't have jobs. So I think it's a legal matter that you would need to engage as subs. How are such situations handled where a student during a protest is arrested? You don't have proof that he burnt the tire. You don't have proof that this person did whatever, but you arrested them for public disruption. That student should not suffer for the rest of their lives for standing up for what is right. So there should be special, the repercussions should be reduced for such students. And I think that is a broader conversation that won't come out of this particular commission, but the conversation can start. I think that is all from my side. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Gajira, and thank the speakers. I think your suggestion was that let's make an input in terms of what was presented. The PC made the input, of which I was going to maybe touch on what PC was saying, that as we are here, we're here as a collective. We are here as a collective. Let's try, whenever we speak, we want to produce one document that will tell us how do we make institution safe as a collective. Yes, we can maybe reverse back and say what happened, where, and how, it's fine. But as a collective, as we are here today, we want to produce a document that will assist us. Okay. I like to say, when we are saying to tell us how must we police you. Let's document it here. I make it one as one example. But I understand all the frustration that we previously have. As a leadership, all of us here today, let's try and make contribution towards that document that's going to be produced. That will be our way of policing, our way not of policing the student, of ensuring that there is a safe in the institution. Thank you.
Yeah. Can I allow the hands, General? Okay.
Yeah, Prakatia, thank you very much. I'm a little bit worried as to the way the discussions are taking turns. Because now it seems the students and subs, whilst we are having a number of legislations that we are implementing on daily basis. So, Brigadier, I think the outcome of the commissions, the strategic section of SAPS, that we are going to package the document and it's going to be presented to the National Commissioner, and the National Commissioner is going to present it to the Minister, I suppose. Then what is supposed to be discussed in the Department of Higher Education and higher learning, it's supposed to be taken there. And the issues that are supposed to be discussed in the basic education, they are supposed to be taken there. Because I don't think it's fair to SAPS to say SAPS must govern all the institutions. I don't think it's fair. But the platform, it was created to say, can we engage? Because there are shortcomings, I agree. But we are not rewriting the pieces of legislations that we are implementing on a daily basis. But if we are saying, because SAPS, it's there when things has happened, where are we failing? I think the speaker there said, after everything has happened, we come back to the table and we discuss. And most of the time, we find each other. What is it that we are not doing well, that we must do before the relapse of everything, and then the POPs comes in to maintain law and order? Because I think we must go back and learn from what has happened before. But we must not say SAPS must put everything in order. The Department of Higher Learning must do its duty. If the Department of Higher Learning, from these commissions, what is going to come out from this summit, all the departments must do what is necessary. Everybody must do what is expected, or what, according to the policy mandate of that particular institution, we must do what we are expected to do. Because if we will expect SAPS to do everything, we will be wasting time. Thank you, Chair.
Can you count the hands now so that before we close it? You have Brigadier Motishan, Brigadier Twala, but your hand was up. No, I've got it here in front of me. And who's there at the back? Oh, okay. So it's 5 hands there. Okay. Telam Tomben is 6 and Skippers is number 7. Okay.
Thank you, Provincial Commissioner. Thank you, Program Director.
I tetelapa kuyo mtha so that we can hear you.
Thank you, PC, Provincial Commissioner. I was the facilitator for this group 2, which deals with crowd management, reaction to protocol, and then SASRIA. I think we must agree as South African Commissioner that we want to securitize each and everything that we are doing. We want the police everywhere we are doing our own things. We cannot even manage ourselves. And that is why we are here today, having to deal with the internal issues of the Department of Education and having now to come and intervene as the police and law enforcement. I think if you can recall is that in 2015 with the Fees Must Fall, the police were involved. The vice chancellors came together with the minister. They sat down in Pretoria College. We were also called in there to come and see and to check on what we can do to minimize the casualties that are taking place with the student protests. And out of that, there was also a resolution that was taken to say that the provinces, and including I think NETJOC in Pretoria, we have to sit down on a monthly basis as the priority committees on education so that we can minimize the casualties in this environment. And I think this is where we identify the gap, because we have been having some inquiry, commission of inquiries in a range of issues, but in the education sector, we never had to sit down and have a look into what the challenges do we have and how to deal with these situations, so that it mustn't be every time that when things are happening, you have to call the police. And I think I also have to thank the management in this environment to say that with what we are doing today, we are closing that gap, the gap in the education sector, where you will find that there are some protests and we don't have a way of having to deal with that. But if you can look at our deliberations, at point number 1, it speaks about the establishment of campus, school safety, crime prevention, priority committees. And then if you can look at this, you will see that this is closing the gap in terms of the before the strikes. So if all these role players can play their part in terms of the management internally before they call the police, I think there will be minimal casualties and there will be minimal blames to the police. out of the, the meeting that we had, there was also an agreement to say that the police, we must have the liaison officers from the police side that will be liaising with the university so that we can also check in terms of whatever activities that might come from that environment, and also to advise before it goes to the streets. So we have been doing that. However, what is important today, Provincial Commissioner, is that we are now documenting each and every resolution that was taken in this environment, and which is going to obviously to be a strategy, which this strategy is going to be adopted from the students to the unions, to the school management, and then to the different departments, including the police. So I think the road that we are taking today is the best road, which I don't think for now we are going to look into what the police are doing, police brutality, this and that and that and that and that. Here we are crafting the road to the safer school campuses. Thank you, Provincial Commissioner.
No, thanks, Chair, the Program Director. Chair, maybe I should start in this way. The issue of the demonstration activities in higher learning is not started now. It have happened long, even before. But if can be honest, now our West, because in our university or higher learning institution, there's a lot of the political platform created in the institutions. Now remember, when the people are fighting in terms of politics, they are fighting for the space. Now, we go to one of the institutions, we get different political party in that institution. And each of them, they want to win the space. It means even the student issues are not priority. Now, even those people who don't want to go to schools, they just enroll in school. 2 days down the line, they starting the protest, because their intention is not about the issue of the student. It's the mandate of the political party come from. Now, even that in their mandate, it must not necessarily they want to address the issue of the student. Now, until such time that we manage the issue of this platform, too much platform of political activity in our institution, will never get right. I think those I know it might not be easy for us here. But as much as we are going to make a report to the ministers, I think as a minister, as a political head, they must also assist in terms of to address this thing. Because if you look, when you go to our schools, in our schools we won't have a problem because there is a LYC or REC. Things are normal. When there's a problem, it's when the kids are going to fight with each other. But go to the Institute of Higher Learning, because of political space, that's where our problem lies. Thanks, sir.
Thank you, Brigadier, and greetings to the House at large. Brigadier, let me start by saying systems are as good as people, and people are as good as systems. If you can go to these institutions, be it your higher institutions of higher learning or your basic educations, they do have systems in terms of policies that speaks to safety. And they do have these committees that deals with these such things. But do we have the right people sitting in those committees? You go to your college board of directors or college council, you find only business people there. Where is your municipality in terms of SALGA? I was shocked and surprised yesterday to learn that SALGA is not in our midst. And yet you are talking community safety and community policing. That's your access when it comes to policing. Your local authorities must be present. We full, this house is full, but it's only police members. We are dealing with student matters. I was expecting students to be full in this house. Because when we do situational analysis in terms of safety, those people must take the lead. So, in as long as we don't have the relevant people sitting in these committees, we will sit with this challenge. So I am calling that when we deal with this strategy, we also look in the issue of the compositions of those committees. We're talking safety committees, safety forums, safety what. The composition itself, we need to have people sitting in that. In your municipality, you've got your community safety and liaising department or office there. Those people are sitting with resources when it comes to community safety. And yet they are not here today to be part and parcel of it. So I'm just bringing the point at home to say, we must have it at the back of our minds to say, when we go for this, we have the right people placed at the right position. Thank you.
Thank you, General. And thanks for the opportunity. Colleagues, I'm looking at the average age here. And I can assure you, General, if we are going to tell the students what to do, they will not listen. And for now, what we are doing, there's a time and a place for what we are doing, given the current circumstances. But it's actually a sad day that we must come here as police and decide how are we going to deal with students on their own campuses. In fact, we are moving into a future. When you look at the student at that level, it's the future leaders, it's the future academics, it's the future thinkers of this world. I don't think there's a place for the police officer other than studying on a campus. We would rather sit down with the students and say, how do you guys manage yourself? How do you find ways of finding solutions when there's problems? And I know, and I agree what the one speaker was saying, we need to get rid of politics on campuses. That's where you study, that's where you build your future. But we also need to get rid of the problems and the way we're handling with it. It's a pity that we must sit here today because young people do not know how to handle the pressure, do not know how to handle those conflicts. But I think we need to develop more on their own level to say, if there's some certain concerns, how do you deal with it? We cannot go there as the police with nyalas and rubber bullets and all those things, because that's our own children studying there. So I would like to invite the youth maybe on your own level, come up with your own strategies. Yes, we can guide you. It mustn't be the other way around like we're doing now, where they're guiding us how to treat them. It must actually be the other way around. If this country wants to move forward on all levels, we need to find a way where police members do not enter a learning environment. The moment we arrive there, colleagues, we can be honest with one another. Already our presence there sometimes instigate additional violence. We do not need that. But we need to see young people standing up and building a prosperous country. We need to see young people taking responsibility for their own problems and their own concerns. If we are continue to dealing with concerns in a violent way, obviously, and that's why I was saying, then this day is needed. But it needs to be the other way around. We have done this many times in the past in many areas of fighting crime. It's not working because police are always the leader. It must be the other way around. We need to serve the community. The community's young people, I think you go and speak to your fellow students and come up with your own solutions and let us support you. Then, through that structure, we can take hands, we can trust one another, because now we don't trust one another. That lady was saying we speak of them and us. Then we will be able to close that gap. Then it will be one community for one country. Only then will there be a future for this country. Thank you, General.
Thank you very much, Provincial Commissioners and the General present, all our stakeholders present here. What we have to emphasize is the issue of working together. I believe that together we can do more, because whatever we experience within the campuses, within the school, basic education, it affects all of us. And the fact remains is that those people who are within those institutions, our children, our brothers, or whatever you can define them. So in working together, as the presentation clearly flagged there, we have to create a safety within the university, within the schools. We know for the fact that there is the priority committees within the prof joint. But what can work is that if we are inclusive, as General Skeppers have indicated, if we can be inclusive in terms of the early warnings, because the South African Police Service gets the early warnings in terms of the flare which is going to happen within those universities. And it is important that of what you have indicated, because to bring the universities together, you might find that these universities, they are having different dynamics. We can do that, but what is important to flag on the presentation is that within the province or within the district, we have to ensure that we have a close link with the university management, the students, prior to the school openings. You have to have that typical type of engagement where you have to try and find a solution. We know for the fact that when the police is there, everything gets securitized. And in some other instances, as we deliberated previously in the briefing session, the biggest problems is relating to the accommodation, to accommodate students, is NSFAS, or the scrapping of the debt which is owed by the students. So it will be better a week before. I know I'm coming from Gauteng. I know for the fact that in Gauteng, during 26 #fees must fall, I was very much involved in all the universities within the province. I could have linked up with all those universities, you know, the vice chancellors. You know, I know them. And because I was based in Pretoria, in Tshwane University of Technology, I was adopted like part and parcel of the management, so that we have to engage and involve the students, because the students, they are affected. So this issue of working together, get involved, have a discussions of some sort. We are not saying the police will have all the answers, but it alleviates these problems of us, the police, going there and go and create a havoc. With the recent problems we had affecting more so Gauteng and KwaZulu-Natal, the issues of the critical infrastructure, the issues of strategic installation came forth. From our side and other provinces, we managed to link up with the universities so that we can look together with people who are responsible for security there within the universities, with the student. What is that what we can do in order to prevent or to save the situation? What is important is to develop and create an environment which is conducive for learning. Though you'll have those challenges from time to time for public disorder, but really we need to work together. And these issues of them, us, it has to come to an end. And we have to take note of securitizing these matters to the police, to say the police must do everything. And thank you very much for the opportunity and the input.
Now, there is a junior PC there, my PC. I will, well, there is no knee without, leg without a knee. We'll give it the junior PC because they are the future to the universities. If they can start thinking now, because universities are not there for violence. We're paying our children to be there to think and to be great thinkers, not to be violent. So that is the bottom line why we're sitting here. Over to you, PC.
I'll keep it short and sweet because the program director has already said so. I hear us talking about safety on campus and the higher education, but the real question is what was done in the basic education? Because the reason why there is a lot of riots happening in the higher education and the students going on riots instead of coming to the police is because they never built a solid relationship when they were young. And that is because the police were not present when they were young. So they went to other solutions. So what I'm trying to say is that the police must start being consistent now at my age, not at their age. Because now at their age, they have already been exposed to other stuff. They've already been exposed to other solutions, which they don't know that sometimes are not lawful. So what I'm saying is the police must start focusing on the basic education to decrease the riots and all of those things that can happen in the next generation in the higher learning institutions. Thank you.
No, thank you. Maybe just the last one on my side. I think there's a police officer there who indicated, and I think General Mtombeni also added on that. Look, there's an information that you have had in negotiation with the students and all that in the past, and I'm sure there are resolutions that were taken. I would request that perhaps also at this level, colleagues, let's be finished with those resolutions to say what was agreed on. But we're meeting here, we're also aware that higher health, for example, Dr. Ramnik was supposed to be here, and higher education, senior management is supposed to be, but they are in Cape Town because there's an education in Daba there with the Minister of Police. Now, we may not be able to talk comprehensively on when we do resolutions. That's also reflect and make room for that so that these resolutions, particularly on the campus issues like we've done, we also find a way to have a discussion with them. I'm also noting that the student bodies who were leaders who were speaking yesterday are not here. Who knows, they might have gone also to go and close the gaps left side. I don't know. But I'm saying this is also, we need to know that when we talk of this togetherness, we must be observant to say who is here and what can we do. So I don't think we're doing bad. I was just saying, you know, one of the critical things, and the students rep can also look at it. You see, generals, when you go to these institutions, at some stage, I felt bad. I think the first institution that was banned, it was, what to call it, Unibo, something there. But I remember I was in France. You know, when you're looking on the news there, you're only in South Africa, they only told us about that banning of the university. And they're showing the flames, and I think it's 2015, 16, somewhere there. You know the way it reflects on us. We say we want investors, but a society that also internationally we go on banning our learning institution like that. It says a lot about even the people who are interested in investing here. But this, to me, these are matters that I think we must look at them in our context and say, when you go to these institutions, a fundamental question must be asked. Schools we're opening schools, there are no books. Then students and parents must riot for books to be delivered there. I'm talking basic education. Eh? Then you go to tertiary institutions. There's NSFAS problem. This one was not supposed to be paid or was supposed to be paid. If you listen to what students, it's what a normal parent, we at our level, we must do, we must plan. And in planning, we will involve them to say no. So much that next time we go to these institutions, if it were me, all powers, you know, we must not only go there, we agree that we must do prior, but If it eventually we go there, no, we can't only be arresting students. Let's arrest lecturers, administrators. They've caused this problem. They are managers. If they are not doing their job, why are they there for? Why must it be always in January that this problem, accommodation, this, what were they planning? They are abusing us, colleagues. This we must convey to the minister, and our minister must convey to their minister. This thing must stop. People must do their work. Thank you so much.
I think we are starting another movement, but let's say, Taduntul, it's we then in our commission, this commission, one, we've had incidents. I'm going on pension, I've already our pension anyway. We have had incidents at the universities that are documented. And we must have that information so that we say, how do we solve now? How do we have a problem-solving approach, action steps to mitigate this risk? Because I can tell you, all these universities will be net first, the accommodation, and at school level, as you are saying, textbooks are not at school. Teachers, there are no enough teachers. So these are the issues that we come in as police, we own it, we must take it now, which has never been our problem, but it becomes our problem. Now, thirdly, I think all of us here who are sitting here as parents, and our children, some of us have graduated, some are still at universities, or our grandchildren. We pay for them to come up with solutions for this country, to develop this country, not to destroy this country. That's why we make this our point. During the fees must fall, I was standing there like a bouncer in parliament, and the child is insulting me, and my daughter is here in front because all our daughters were put in front there. You say, you must be in front because the police are going to start with you. Even the rectors, the children and ministers' children were in front. Now, you get a child now is insulting you. Here is your daughter or your child also in this. Then I remind, hey, look, next to you is my daughter. Whilst you are insulting him, I don't think he feels happy because you are insulting his father now. So the mood changes once it comes with that situation, but must it go to that level? So students, you owe us as your parents. You owe us. We spend money, we save our money, we don't spend our money for what we're supposed to be spending on, for your education. But what you do, you destroy that very institutions of higher learning. And then you come back. Now, thirdly, what we did not look at, although maybe it's not our point, we send so many people to universities, as the National Commission was saying yesterday. Even if they all pass and saw unemployment, but we still have the dropouts. Maybe it's not for us to discuss that, but when they are dropouts, they come back to be unemployed, they fall in the queue of criminalities. So that also the institutions should also be talking about, and ourselves. And lastly, because this is our passionate, this is our development country, this is our development institutions. We know that it is a breeding ground for leadership, either politically, economically, religiously, or otherwise. But how then do we manage this ethically to ensure that we produce because we produce everything from the universities, other than the technical skills that we now lacking with? We should just really be part of that situation. Perhaps in our commission, as we're going to go, I suppose one day, the Minister of Education, Higher Education and Basic Education, the police, and maybe the the JCPS might meet and look at this document. These are the things that should actually be looked at and come up with solutions. But students who are not here now, we are talking about them, for the future. So it's actually done. It means for us, as we move out to our provinces again with this, let us have an action plan. How then do we engage at the provincial level, the institutions, higher of learning that are there? Thank you very much. That has been a good discussion, and I think this is one that we needed for this purpose. Thank you very much. You've been a good bunch.
General, it is clear that this day or this summit required more than 2 days. And it is clear that this summit required more than 4 hours for us to have this discussion. So for visible policing, there should be another round of discussions that must happen individually with the various structures or collectively at a national level to take into account some of the other challenges. And if we had a house full of learners here today who this is meant for, I'm sure we would get much more information to work with on the framework. But be that as it may, General, I've been informed that there's some people that might be presenting and need to take flights. So I'm going to move to the next commission with your permission, sir. Commission number 3, you were tasked with the standard campus safety requirements, and I think there will be an overlap between that and some of the discussions that did take place today, where you were required to look at the issues of access control, physical guarding, CCTV, crowd management, and intelligence networking. I'm going to call on Pastor Shabalala. No, sorry, Colonel Dolo. Thank you.
General, they forgot to clap hands for me, but it's fine. General, on that note, I'll try to be as concise, as precise as possible. Commission 3, like they indicated, standard campus safety requirements. Other commissions spoke to the question of review of existing legislation. We don't have to dwell on it. Establishment of learning environment safety committees. In the commission, it was discussed in this fashion. These committees will have a main broader committee, which will have its own subcommittees within the institutions. And then the main aim of these committees is to gather information and bring it together, which will also give us the early warnings. And it will be the responsibility of these committees to make sure that they engage internally and externally so as to avoid nyalas and public order to come and maintain order, because their duty will be to maintain order before the public order policing comes. Then higher education, higher health to be included in the higher institutions of learning. It was said a mouthful. The incorporation of campus liaison officers. SAPS has appointed campus liaison officers in all its police stations, which are having high institutions of learning, your TVET colleges and your universities. Now, our counterparts, the universities, needs to appoint such people who will liaise with our own people. And both of them, the two of them, should form part and parcel of the committee that must be established in the institution. There must be a CPF, or rather the in-house CPF of institutions, which will link with the police station CPF. And then CIRA is playing a critical role. We need those securities to be accredited who are serving in those institutions of higher learning. We need them to be accredited. There must be a continuous monitoring and evaluation. And then the CCTV cameras, we so wish that all the institutions of higher learning can have that as a minimum standard. We know we've got the rural universities, we've got the urban ones, and the urban ones are more advantaged resource-wise, but the wish of this setting is to see all these institutions having those minimum standards that we say, if we say an institution of higher learning is doing well, it must have this all in order. You talk of your CCT cameras, you talk of your biometrics, you talk of your physical security, you talk, all those, they need to be within the basic standard. Coming now to the issue of identified projects, we are talking about vetting of all security officers, and then enhance access control measures. We spoke of the biometrics, and improve security measures in and around the campus. We need to rope in other role players from the community to take care of the infrastructure, because it is a community within a community. General, I must say, SAPS as the end user of the victim. We are the end users of the victim. Instead of taking it from the strategic point of view, where the seniors in all government departments are the first ones to sit down and talk about this and roll it down to us. It took time. Hence, the integrated youth crime prevention strategy now is taking it operationally. We are taking it from bottom up. It was supposed to be up bottom, where all ministers came together. But I can restly say, General, this information is going to be shared with all stakeholders. The draft will be communicated with the relevant stakeholders. They will input on it, and then when it comes to be a final document, it shall have gone all the stages as it was directed and requested by the General earlier on. And then the other thing that we talked of, the existing legislation, there is a protocol which has been reviewed. It is sitting in the office of the Minister of Basic Education. It is just awaiting the signatures. Once it is signed, that reviewed protocol will be more operational. But one thing for sure, it was emanating from the previous protocol, and the basic education in the SAPs are running it fairly so. And then the sector policing initiatives, we will talk more about it when we want to operationalize it. And then the integrated youth crime prevention strategy is a document that we are having, that we are selling to say, let us go and engage this document. Let us go and see all these thematic areas. Let us go and see these pillars and make sure that we make them practical. I won't dwell much on the next slide, which talks more of the projects, initiatives, and who and whatsoever. They spoke of it from the two commissions. All I can indicate is to say we are talking about a territory of higher education, of which higher education is not included. Why are we doing that? We are doing that because we are the end users. Whatever they worry and fight about in their own house, which they fail maybe to solve, it ends up being a casualty of SAPS. I take note of what the student said. We are very sorry for the loss of lives during the riots. We mustn't take it easy. We are taking a serious note of what you said, and definitely may their soul rest in peace. This sitting is trying to address that going forward, we mustn't be losing lives. No matter what differences, we mustn't be losing lives. We are taking note of that. And I'm happy that we are going to be guided by you on how to police you. And this document must be interrogated further by those structures when we send it to you for more input. Let the student bodies input on it so that it can be our document and not their document. So by so saying, I will talk about SIRA as the critical stakeholder. This document will be forwarded to SIRA at the head office. Let them engage it, let them interrogate it, let them add more meat on it so that when we say it is a document finalized, every stakeholder mentioned here has a part that is going to play. Be it resources-wise and whatsoever, they will play a part. And then at the end, we just want to, it's not a matter of shining. The Western Cape indicated that some of the initiatives, let me put it that way, they've already started with them. Can we give them a round of applause? Then, by so saying, I wanted to save time, General, to say they are going to be consolidated. We are going to distribute them to the relevant stakeholders who are not here, and even to those who are here for more input. And at the end, we will have a document, General, that can assist us going forward. One thing for sure, the intelligence that will be gathered via these documents, it is going to assist us in solving many problems. The security standards will be clearly discussed as people will be engaged in these documents. I thank you, General.
Thank you, General. This one was a pretty straightforward one, so I'm hoping that there's not going to be a volume of hands, but I will allow for a session of hands. Are there any questions? I think here we're just trying to create a standard within every campus environment to ensure that the standards remain the same, even moving closer towards our rural environments. Yes, sir.
Oh, thank you, Brigadier. Brigadier, I just want to lobby the House that in the same breath, we talk about a campus safety requirement. We also talk about a standard school safety requirement. I am glad that Ms. Longwane from Basic Education is here. And I would like to lobby her to say, may her department look at how it can invest more on security in our schools. You see the level of theft and vandalism that is done by or perpetuated by criminals. And that is an indication to say there is no security at all. For them as a department to rely on the SGBs to appoint securities, they go appoint a 70, 80-year-old Madala to go guard a school. A school or a facility that accommodates precious property that must assist in the teaching and learning of our pupils. So I am lobbying you, Ms. Longwane, this afternoon to say, you go back and you look to that. And while you look at it, you have at the back of your mind a place like Lusigisigi in the Eastern Cape, where they don't have even a proper ablution facilities. Have that, because when we talk safety, we talk about it holistically in terms of your health and wellness. So I'm lobbying you this afternoon to say, you go back, you sit back with your committees or managerial staff there, and you talk about this, and talking about this seriously, not just to mark the box. Thank you.
Thanks. I think it's very important in terms of these sessions and any other session to the phrases, the words that we use, what weight they carry. Now, I've heard the colonel talking about riots. I heard the junior commissioner talking about riots. In my understanding, and we can debate it, and I'll probably win the debate, the issue of the fees must fall, whatever, they were not riots, because riots are indiscriminate acts of violence, the purpose of which is not a positive outcome, but a protest or uprisings, there is something positive about it, because the issues that gave rise to that protest or that uprising are very legitimate. So riots, uprisings are not the same thing, and therefore in the usage of language, these phrases carry a lot of weight, and that is what we need to understand in order not to indiscriminately use such phrases. So that was just a comment. And as I was saying, we can debate these concepts. I'll probably win the debate at the end of the day.
Okay, I think we're going to move. Okay, can we have that question? There's just one there, General. Okay, two.
Oh, okay. Thank you. I just wanted.
There's just one more at the back with the white hat, General.
Okay. No, thank you. I just wanted to make a quick comment. It's not a question. I just wanted to make a quick question because this commission was dealing, I was not part of the commission, but it was dealing with the basic requirements of security in campuses. I would like to, sorry? Yeah, and safety in campuses. I would like to request this because this is something that we have actually even submitted memorandums to our local police station on, that in the interim, now that we have not passed the document, we actually have a way of dealing with campus safety as of now. And I would like to make a request to this commission that there be a mandate from this commission to police stations, local police station, for police visibility when it comes to places around campuses. We have had a lot of rape cases. We've had a lot of robberies from students coming from campuses going back to their places, especially those who do not reside in campuses. So this is a request that in the interim, now that we still don't have this document that is consolidated, that be a mandate, that this becomes a mandate to local police stations to deploy patrol cars. Visibility, we have requested police visibility, especially in universities that are actually in rural areas. I'm speaking this because I'm from the University of Venda, and it's a rural-based university. And we struggle a lot when it comes, because there's no lighting around, sometimes the grass is not cut, and it makes our students very vulnerable when it comes to crime. So I'm actually lobbying the House to actually make that a mandate to local police stations. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Program Director. No, I heard one speaker when he was speaking saying that we are not present. Just that we are not sitting in the areas where we're sitting, we're still here, Chair. As a comment, I think we must register the point as the union to say that we are very happy about this session. We are happy because the conversations now have started discussing around the solutions that we must provide towards the safety of students and learners. So we are very happy to say that, Chair, we are committed as the union in making sure that we interact with all local police stations closer to any campus that we are in, to make sure that we develop relationship with the SAPS, working relationship, and start forging educational programs that probably will assist in making sure that we have positive working relations. And I think it is important, Program Director, that we assure and we register the point. I think this, as I'm listening to a number of officers speaking as parents, they are aggrieved about the fact that students leave home with an intention to start, and when they get there, they start joining protest. I think we must assure all our parents that there is not even one student that when they go to a university have a dream of being a leader of any fees must fall. But because of the conditions that you interact with when you get to an institution, that's what leads you to a situation where you choose then to protest. But now, because we have a conversation that we've begun with the SAPS, it's going to make the job of the student leadership easier, because there will be a mediator where when it comes to a situation where students and management are failing to agree. I think the officer there who was saying SAPS must also interrogate on what is it that the managers are doing such that institutions, each and every year, they go to a protest. Because it's a guaranteed thing now since 2016. Every January to March, there is going to be protest across, and university management are not made accountable on what is it that you are doing to make sure that these protests are not actually happening. So I think we wanted to raise at that point to say that we are committed as the union in making sure that we work with SAPS, and we will wish that Pravusi, after this session, conduct of people, the relevant people, are shared with us. We want to interact with the JMC as peer-to-peer conversation where there are no older people, but we meet with young people to advise us now from the other side to say that, look, chaps, as much as you are leading students, but A, B, C, and D is going to lead you into conflict with the law. When you are protesting A, B, C, and D, you should not be doing as an educational form of a program to even now assist student leaders to know the rules that they must take when they are engaging in a protest or whatever engagement they are doing. Thank you very much, Chair.
Thank you. General, there being no more hands, can I move to Commission 4, please, with your permission? Okay, thank you. Commission 4's responsibility was to deal with school safety forums, campus crime desks, and they had to look at the structural composition of these, resourcing and coordination. I'm going to call Mr. Shabalala to please give his presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Brigadier. Greetings to all police officials, all their rankings, all protocols observed, and all the stakeholders. My report is quite very short, divided into 6 sections. The first part deals with identified project initiatives. There are 2 spheres of the education sector. The first one being the basic education and the second one being the higher education. Now, what we need to note is that the issue of school safety forums or perhaps campus crime desk, we have changed the concept of campus crime to campus safety because we would like to deal with safety in a broader sense. In terms of the sphere of basic education, I would like to highlight that they already have such a structure in place. In our schools, there are school safety committees comprising of SGB members, SMT members, school safety coordinators, learner representative councils, school administration staff, and other external stakeholders. So there is such a structure in existence in the Department of Basic Education across our schools. Now, in the higher education sphere, our proposal is there's a need to have a campus safety desk or committee comprising of campus management, the campus security, SAPS, the Department of Social Development, the local business forum, metropolis, if such an institution is located within a metro, school representative council, students representative council, the local municipality, CPF, youth crime prevention desks, NSFAS, and SALGA. Then now, there has to be awareness campaigns on both sides in relation to the sphere of basic education and higher education, capacity building for SGBs and junior commissioners. There's already a project initiative related to junior commissioners project and school safety desk, and they adopt a COP, that is schools in partnership with the SAPS in this regard. That is why I said in terms of the sphere of basic education, there's already an initiative regarding what we were tasked to do. The second section of my report deals with the question of, is there legislation that already exists in relation to the issues? Now, in the sphere of basic education, we have the Department of Basic Education and SAPS Partnership Protocol, the National School Safety Framework, the South African Schools Act, regulations for safety measures for public schools, the protocol for managing corporal punishment, the protocol for reporting sexual abuse and sexual harassment in schools. And in the sphere of higher education, The existing legislation relates to the Higher Education Act, as well as the protocol between SAPS and higher education, which still needs to be engaged into, refined, and implemented. As I move to the third section, we have proposed 4 project initiatives in the spheres of basic education as well as the higher education sector. The first one, the anti-bullying campaign. Now, the question is who should lead the project initiative? We have proposed that the Department of Basic Education should take the lead, and what are the dependencies or support that is required. Then this would mean that all the stakeholders that I mentioned in the first part would need to come together with strengthened intergovernmental relations and support from a variety of other community-based organizations. The second project initiative is the searches and seizures to be implemented in terms of the lead to be taken by the Department of Basic Education as well as the South African Police Service. And this they will do with support and working in hand with the intergovernment organizations from the community and other non-governmental organizations. The third one is disaster risk assessment. The lead will be taken by the Department of Basic Education and COGTA and the RMC. They will do this working hand in hand with the intergovernment organizations, such as our NGOs and relevant local organizations in areas within which our institutions are based. All this, number 4, would be crime awareness campaigns. Now, in the implementation of the crime awareness campaigns, the SAPS, the Department of Basic Education, as well as the Department of Higher Education, working hand in hand with the stakeholders that I've mentioned that are related to the community, as well as other local organizations within metro municipalities and local municipalities, will work hand in hand in implementing the 4th initiative of crime awareness campaigns. As we move forward, the next section is when should the project be initiated? We have allocated a period of 1 to 5 years, and we asked the question in terms of monitoring as to how often must the project be monitored. And then we said the project should be monitored on an ongoing basis, and then now the main monitoring should happen annually, wherein perhaps there would be an annual general meeting of stakeholders where reporting would take place. The other question is there existing data to monitor this? We said yes, for the purpose of monitoring reports will be kept and they will be dealt with accordingly in terms of reporting channels. The question is, where is the data kept? The data would be kept in the Department of Basic Education, the Department of Higher Education and Training, the SAPS, and the other stakeholders as well who are involved in the program. However, the main responsible parties will be the 2 spheres of education as well as the SAPS. Who should be reporting? The leading departments, that is the Department of Basic Education and the Department of Higher Education and Training, should report. Obviously, this will be done through their relevant ministries to their province, the national parliament. At what level of oversight should this be reported? We have proposed the issue of interministerial committees so that they can take care of these project initiatives and take care of the reporting mechanisms involved. I move to the second last section. What are the resources that are required? The first question is there an existing budget? Yes, there is an existing budget in relation to such initiatives in the 2 departments, the Department of Basic Education, the Department of Higher Education and Training, and obviously the SAPS has also got a budget for awareness campaigns in relation to crime and social crime. Now, who should fund this? Each department funds designated projects with support from a variety of stakeholders, which I've made mention of at the beginning of this section of the report. The last part, how often do you want to measure milestones? We have proposed that this should be done on a quarterly basis, and the main measuring of milestones should be done once every year. I thank you very much.
General, can I check for a round of hands on this specific one? No, you-
Thanks, General. Once again, appreciating the presentation. Just a comment on I think the second last slide or so. We are talking about school safety forums, campus safety committees, but we are just talking about SEPS and DBE. And as an afterthought, we are putting in Department of Health and Training. So I think just to purify, because DBE and higher education is the target groups. Thank you very much.
And I hope we've answered the questions that the National Commissioner put to us on the campus safety, the school safety, and the strategy on the higher learning institution safety. And I think those three, as he mentioned, where the, yeah, I hope we answer that question. If we did not, there's still chance when you compile it to answer those questions. Because you got, as Jenna was saying, a school safety program at the Department of Education, then you have now the campus safety with the higher learning institutions, but now the strategy on that to combine the whole thing together. So I think if we did not answer that youth commission, and I'm mindful of what the gentleman from the student down there was saying about JMC and youth prevention, camp prevention, that you must meet also and assist us to get to these. JMC, the youth steering committee, at that level of being young, because your language and our language is not the same. But what we're questioning you is, why do we repeat the same violence every year? We rest assured, January we're going to be dealing with taxi violence, we're going to be dealing with students' protests. It's for sure. It's given every year. Because January, everybody's back at work, taxis do not have money, now they start fighting. Students, they're going to school, and then there are protests. So that gentleman was sitting there, a student. What he said is fundamentally important, that we engage the students at the level the language understand. Because this tomorrow, there still be a university, whether that student is fired. And I want to answer that question about criminal records of the students. Unfortunately, those are the consequences that you must take into consideration when you involve, you get to decide to involve yourself with violence and destruction. Those are the consequences. That's why we are here to prevent that from happening. But I'm under correction with the fees must fall. There was I think it's a cabinet decision that those students must be assisted to expunge their criminal record. Those were not charged. I think there was something like that, but I'm talking under correction. But I will leave that with the team to go and follow that one, because I think there was something about those. But if you are involved in crime, whether you are a student or where, those are the consequences of being involved in crime. You are going to have that criminal record. For 10 years, then you can only expunge after 10 years. So that's the reality. That's why we don't want you to be there. Because when we take you to university, we want you to go and stay at your own and spend your money, employed or start your own business. In fact, why we here, we don't want you to learn to be employed. We want you to learn to go and create wealth for this country. We don't want you to come here to be employees of tomorrow. but we would want to see you to be sure employers of tomorrow. That's what we want to see. Thank you. Over to you.
Okay, General, there's the lady in the yellow, orange shirt, the gentleman in the blue, and one hand here.
Thank you, General. All protocol observed. I'm representing Gauteng Community Police Board. I am the parent. So we are here as CPF and we're representing the parents of these learners and students. We need to play our part. With the working and partnership relationship with SAPS at the basic education, so far Gauteng, we are trying to do the right things. We do have social clusters where we meet with the Department of Education. We do support the program of Adopt a Cop at a basic education side. We do support, again, SAPS in forming the youth crime prevention desks and the junior commissioners. But we are losing them after they finish their matric. And as parents, we have this tension, in tendency actually of not taking responsibility. Now we are listening here. The problem is that the students and the police, it's like now the parent is no more, is not appearing anywhere. We need to play our part. Yes, we are not working, but most of us, we are working. We need to utilize the resources that we have in the companies that we're working for. We do support the companies when they go and do the career guidance at the basic education. So we don't then transfer that information when these learners are becoming students now. We're not supporting them. We let them apply for their own NFSAS, of which our companies are giving bursaries to these kids. So we are taking the message. We will then plant the message down to the ground at the station level, at the sector level, to say, you are the parent, you know your child was doing a matric. We need to encourage them to apply before they pass their matric. The career guidance, we also need to make follow-up after they got bursaries that are taking them to the tertiary. Then it will then release the stress to NFSAS also, because we tend to take our parents' IDs and information of SASA. We don't want to utilize and save money to support these kids. So we are here, we are listening, and we are taking it back home to say, parents, let's play our part. Because you cannot say the child now, because he's 18 and above, and they must learn to fight for themselves. Because you can hear that they are doing the fees must fall, but you don't hear the voice of a parent there. So we need to make sure that we partner as SGPs from the basic education. We need to transgrade that to the higher education also. That partnership and adopt a COP, the varsities also need to adopt the COPs so that we can have these talks that we do at the basic education. Thank you.
I was a little bit skeptical to raise this issue, which I'm going to raise, but after the input by the student activists there at the back, I feel comfortable now to raise this thing. I think this summit must also look at the question of, you see, when students do their business, they have a demand. They are demanding something from management. And it gets to that point of them being impatient. And where does this impatient lead then? It leads to that situation where subs must step in. And when subs step in, lives get endangered. Lives get endangered because the element of impatience leads to that total disregard of law and order. And we need to understand that SAPS is there to maintain law and order. Now, I want to make a plea to the students' representatives here. One of them are here next to me. As and when we as students take this decision, we must take cognizance of the fact that we live in a country which is governed by law and order. And all decisions that we take must be in line with the prescripts of law and order within the country. It is a very painful situation when a student who is part of a march gets into trouble and gets locked because his or her colleagues decided to break law. So it is very, very important that in this summit, we must also look at this element of the total disregard of law and order. Thank you, Brigadier.
Thank you, Brigadier. Brigadier, I just wanted to touch on the issue of structures once more. And I will say structures against performance. I've seen through observations that the structures get destructured due to lack of commitment from members sitting in those structures. And then how do we make sure that these structures are kept intact and they engage on matters, they convene every now and then to engage on serious matters of importance when it comes to safety in our campuses. My proposal to this House will be those members who will be appointed in these structures, forums, or committees, their performance or these KPAs, whatever they'll be there to do, must reflect on their assessment tools. And that's how you can hold one accountable in terms of what is it that you've done there. Secondly, it's just to direct this to the student leadership. We are aware of the political influence, and most of the time when you are having your peaceful protest or demonstrations, there are people or politicians or aspiring politicians who utilize, hijacks your peaceful protest to establish themselves politically, and you know that. So my plea to you, those people are criminals. You need to assist the police as well in terms of identifying them, ensuring that we keep them as far as possible from your demonstration or protest. I thank you.
Thank you, General. I think that was the last hand. General, if you'd allow me as the lead facilitator, just to wrap up what my responsibility is going to be. Having received all the inputs from the various commissions, I had a member of my team in every one of the conversations. So whilst you might see it on a presentation here, we would have captured detailed notes that would influence the document moving forward. So my responsibility is then to provide to Visible Policing within 30 days a draft framework for the safety environment and also an action plan that goes with that. Our advice would normally be to Visible Policing to further consult, but we will always support the division until the document is Commissioner, and then they start implementation, and we also then support them as far as that is concerned. So our role here was to capture the information and take into account everything that was said, which we have done. So the provinces, other stakeholders will be informed through the division Visible Policing when the draft is available and ready, and they will then do their consultation thereof. General, my task here, I think, has come to an end. Thank you, sir, for allowing me this opportunity.
Thank you very much, Brigadier Pillay. Moving along towards the closing of the ceremony, I'm going to request Sergeant Dibakwane, who is the chairperson of the Junior Management Corps, to come to the fore.
Thank you very much, Program Director. Let me first acknowledge the presence of the Provincial Commissioner, Western Cape, General Upategile, all the acting provincial commissioners that are here, the component heads that are present here, the section heads, the Middle Management Corps, all the representatives of the different departments that are present here, the Civilian Secretariat for Police, also the CPF boards that are here. Let me also greet the junior commissioners present here. Let me also not forget the student representatives gathered with us here, and everybody who's present and who contributed to the summit. General, mine here is to provide a way forward for the summit. Firstly, General, I think it is important to indicate that we were here to reflect on, one, the legislations that are impacting on the safety within your learning institutions. What was key and important for us there was to look, General, what are the policy gaps that are hindering the safety in that environment, to analyze the root cause metrics, also to check the governance structures that we have in place to say how do we ensure that they become effective. Then lastly, to ensure that there's a structured way for integration and collaboration in ensuring safety within the learning environment. When the National Commissioner was here yesterday, he requested that this summit must develop a framework that, one, must ensure, or it must develop a campus safety policy matrix that will guide the implementation of the strategy that is going to be developed here. He also asked us to look at a cost-effective method of policing that will be applicable to your learning environment, which includes both your higher education as well as your basic education. He further requested that we need to respond to the public violence modus operandi. The understanding of the modus operandi will then lead us to develop a counter modus operandi to the public violence that we see when there's demonstrations. He also asked that this framework must be implementing the sub-strategic approach, pillar number 1, which talks to the stamping of the authority of the state. He also asked that the framework must be implementing the community policing as well as your moral regeneration through your patriotic education. Then he also wanted the framework to respond to the gender-based violence and femicide in institutions of higher learning, and we also needed to link it to your transnational organized crime. Then the last part which he emphasized was the development of a performance management system that responds to the 4 category indicators that talks to the input, the output, the outcome, as well as the impact of the framework that we're here to develop. Then he further directed, General, that we need also to develop a service promise charter, your online crime prevention, as well as the reviewal of your sector policing. Now, when I listened to the reports, General, from the commissions, I want to confirm to General that most of the commissions, the work that they've done, it is directives that were given here by the National Commissioner. General, in terms of what happens moving forward from here, the first point of departure is the formalization of the Learning Environment Safety Steering Committee. This steering committee will include or will be led by the National Youth Crime Prevention Steering Committee. It will include all the representatives that are present here, including the student formations that are not present here today. The reason for us to have an inclusive steering committee, General, is to ensure that the implementation of this framework does not belong to subs, but it belongs to all the relevant role players within the space. Then the second deliverable here, General, it will be the development of the campus safety strategy, which Brigadier Pirley has already pronounced that within the next 30 days, we will have the draft, which will then further be consulted with all the role players, including those that are not here. An example will be your Department of Higher Education. So the consultations after this period of 30 days will still continue. Then from there, we will move to the review of the school safety framework. This will be led by the National Safety School Steering Committee. Now, once these two are done, we will then move to the vertical and horizontal alignment of the campus safety strategy, as well as the school safety framework, into a learning environment safety framework. This is what you've just indicated, General, that we will need one document that covers both the higher education as well as the lower education. Then from there, General, we will then develop an implementation plan which will outline clearly the target as well as the time frames, so that when it comes to reporting, it's much easier. Then once that is done, General, we will move to develop a performance management system that responds to the 4 category indicators as mentioned earlier. Now, the question that might arise now is, while you are still doing the paperwork, finalizing the documents and so forth, the country is burning. The crime incidences are still continuing in the institutions of learning. Then one of the decisions that was taken, it was to compile an emergency response plan, which becomes a quick win action plan. To say from here, the National Youth Crime Prevention Steering Committee is going to lead a process to establish your campus safety forums in all these institutions that will look and attend to all these incidences that we will be experiencing while the document is still being finalized. Then secondly, we are going to re-establish the school safety committees, because what we've realized is that not all these committees are active. So we're going to reactivate them and ensure that across the country, all are active so that they can effectively respond to the incidences that may come before now and by the time we have the document in place. Then, General, one of the discussions that happened around from yesterday till here when the commissions were reporting was the issue of conflict resolutions between the student management and the police. We are therefore saying one of the responsibilities of the campus safety forums, it will be to host regular meetings, to lead and charge for a conflict resolution platform, so that we don't wait up until there's protest or there's demonstrations. But these committees must sit and look to say, how do we better engage as student management and the South African police in resolving whether it's your issues of NSFAS, your accommodation, or whatever issue that might be. Let us sit around the table and check how do we plan and how do we respond to them. Then the last one, which is very critical, General, is that these committees must sit and look at an immediate response to the GBV that is taking place in these institutions. GBV is one of the priorities of government, and we've seen how it has impacted on learners and students. Then we felt that within the next 3 months, it's very much important that we have a clear plan, a clear guidance on how do we deal with the issues of GBV within your institution of higher learning. General, this is the way forward that we've crafted. With your permission, General, thank you very much.
Thank you, Sergeant. You spoke very well. You spoke like a captain. Okay, we're almost getting there. I'd like to request that the president of the South African Association of Senior Student Affairs Professionals come forward, who is none other than Dr. Sibusiso Chalufu. He's going to have an input towards the whole summit. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Program Director. Good afternoon, everybody. All the senior management of the police, all the different ranks, and all the various stakeholders who are here. As they always say, the easiest way is to say all protocol observed. My name is Sibusiso Chalufu, and I am, as it was said, the president of the South African Association of Senior Student Affairs Professionals. But I also work at the Northwest University as the executive director. I mentioned this because yesterday I had a conversation with the CEO of Universities South Africa when I was wondering why the Department of Higher Education is not here, and when I was wondering why USAF is not here. And he asked me to speak on behalf of universities. And I was a bit wary of that responsibility. And in one of the commissions, I indicated that I'm not representing USAF per se. I want to thank you for the invitation to be part of this critical and August gathering. And I also want to thank you, and thanks Ntatetlo for having extended the invite to us. At first, I wasn't too sure why I should actually attend this. And I thought, why are we being invited? And, you know, besides other issues. But from the 2 days that one has been here, which I'll just give a brief reflection on, I think this has indeed been a critical and an August gathering. And I want to thank you for giving me an opportunity to just share a brief observations. But maybe before I do, you know, I was reflecting yesterday on the first day. I've been a student leader myself, and I can identify with what student leaders talk about. The relationship that we've had with the police has not been a good one. It has not been a good relationship. I'll be amongst the first to say that, you know, besides having inhaled a couple of canisters of tear gas when I was a student at the University of Durban, Westville, and being beaten. I've got scars to show where I was beaten by police. Our relationship has not been the best. And I think this summit is beginning a roadmap that wants to change that. And I'll reflect on that just a few. If anything at all, one of the greatest achievements of this summit is that it has created a platform for critical engagement. Although we don't have all the different stakeholders who should be here, but having so many stakeholders in one room, really debating and discussing issues that have been perennial to our institutions, both in the basic sector and in the higher education space, is for me one of the greatest feathers that should be put on the cap of this summit. If you don't mind, you should clap for that. Those who know us, when we work at universities, we like to comment when good things are being done, but we also like to critique, not to criticize. There's a huge difference when we think that things could have been done differently. So whilst we accept that the summit was organized by SAPS and other stakeholders, I would want to suggest that it will have assisted quite tremendously to have consulted, to have involved other critical stakeholders, because I think that we could have contributed. And I think it was General Pillay who indicated that clearly the 2 days was not enough. I think there's a contribution we would have wanted to make there. And when I spoke to the CEO of USAF, he also agreed. One must express the deepest appreciation for the robust engagements that have taken place since day one. But at the same time, one must indicate that this should not be the beginning, or rather the end. It should be the start of engagements which are aimed at charting a better environment. As Brigadier Modishana said much earlier, we are crafting the road to safer schools, to safer campuses. And we need to ensure that becomes only the beginning for that engagement. I want to argue that, and having said and listened, that we need to ensure a more integrated, synergistic, and a collaborative approach to our work. Most of the time, actually, we get defeated because of the way that we work in silos. Somebody was saying yesterday, I think it was during lunch, that criminals are actually very smart. They work together and they exploit some of our gaps because they realize that sometimes the left hand doesn't know what the right hand is doing. And when it comes to our institutions of learning, more often than not, as I said earlier, our relationship is not the best. I want to caution us. We have to be careful not to take a myopic approach in dealing with issues. And I've seen this earlier on in one of the commissions that we were in, although we started to take a different approach. We also must be careful not to take a technicist approach in addressing our challenges. There's issues of gender-based violence that have been highlighted, and I was grateful to hear that. There's issues of crime in our communities that we should be dealing with. And if we are not taking a more synergistic approach in dealing with this, it doesn't matter whatever we discuss in our institutions, as long as the very same communities are not involved. It's a pity, in my other life in Tatetlo, few years ago, maybe I'm exposing my age now, we used to do training for school safety plans. And one of the things we were trying to emphasize was that in schools, you actually don't need to have fences. You don't need a fence in a school. A school is based in a community. And if the community takes the school to be a part of that community, then they are going to guard it with their own lives. But as soon as, of course, there is, and we do the same thing with universities, because when we deal with our publics, they don't feel a sense of belonging. They don't feel that this is something that belongs to us. So you can't expect them to protect it. I think it is important that we need to ensure that. We need to think about how do we ensure a more holistic approach in dealing with the issue of safety in our schools and in higher education institutions. I was a bit worried when the focus started being on protest. You know, the protest is an end product of something else that is seriously amiss, that we should be dealing with, that we should be addressing. I think it was you, Ntatetlo, who alluded to the fact that we need to look at the training that takes place at our institutions. We need to look at you know, even ways of dealing with conflict. Are we, all of us, whether it's management or it's the students or the learners, are we well equipped to really engage and deal with you know, resolution of conflict? I want to emphasize the role of various constituencies. I know my brother there, he mentioned, and he actually opened my eyes yesterday, and he reminded me when he spoke about Salga. We have a challenge at institutions of higher learning because you meet with colleagues in the municipalities, you have great plans, and you think you're going somewhere. Before you know it, there's a new administration and they speak a different language. And everything else that you've discussed, in terms of special planning that you were talking about, in terms of transportation, in terms of residences, because our students stay there, it just disappears. If we don't have that holistic approach, if we don't have that synergistic approach in dealing with issues, we will continue having the challenges that we are having. I was very grateful to hear that we've got parents here. The role of the community is one that we must never ignore. Our own students always tell us that before we are students, before we are leaders, we are members of the community. And I think that's important. So what I'm arguing for is that we need to have more proactive measures in terms of dealing with these challenges. As I'm about to finish. So yesterday, based on the observations that I was making, and based on the engagements, even this morning, there's just a few things that I distilled that I think we must try and keep at the back of our minds. One, the importance of relationships or relationship building. I correctly started by saying that some of us have not had a good relationship with police. When you see police, you see an enemy. And that's how it's been. And to change that mindset, to begin to build a different relationship. Somebody said in the commission, which I thought was very powerful, that at schools, police visit schools, they engage with learners. You don't see that at university, of course, except when there are challenges and they are no longer coming to talk. It's of course, a difficult situation. We need to change all of that. We need to change that mindset. I'm proud to say, and I think, again, I'm sorry about the ranks, one of the colleagues from the Northwest University, not university, sorry, I'm thinking about my university now, from the Northwest Province, was talking about some of the measures that the police have taken. We've had summits there where the police have been involved, safety summits, in all our campuses. I think that is important because it builds those relationships. The issue of stakeholder engagement and management, and I think this is what this summit was trying to do. But I think we need to do a little bit more. The importance of systems, processes and procedures, and the structures. We need to understand our various systems, processes and structures. And it's a pity that Chief Director Ntuli is not here, because I wanted to challenge him to say, by the way, you know, universities are quite complex, and they are full of contradictions, but they do have systems and structures, and there are processes there. And sometimes, and somebody said yesterday, when the police come there, they have actually no clue what has been happening. And they don't even understand what engagements have taken place or not taken place. And it's almost like being dumped into a pool and told to swim. And these are the things that we need to change. I also saw from the engagements that there's a need for issues around communication and opening up the communication channels. The president of SAUS was saying earlier that we need to have the contacts of the various individuals who work in various capacities. Some of us have started doing that because we think it is important to have that better liaison, so that when a situation arises, you're not trying to figure out who to speak to, or you're speaking to a stranger. And of course, this holistic approach that I was talking about to school and campus and campus environments. So in closing, I think that it is important for us to not only identify issues, because that's what we've done, but also to have, it's important to have a good or a proper diagnosis. That's what we've done. And it's just the first step. The problem is, what happens then? What is the next step? And I was grateful to hear, I noted everything that you were saying about what will be the next action steps. We will be watching very closely, because we cannot come here and spend all this time, and then it becomes just a talk shop, and another year we are still trying to figure out, the same kind of perennial challenges that we've been trying to deal with. I want to suggest that in putting together the document that you want to put together, that you might want to have a small task team that is made up of individuals who were here, but including those who were not here, to just give their inputs, because you might get insights that might not come about from you just meeting as a small group. The importance of monitoring and evaluation, it's been spoken about, but I think we must not do a tick box exercise, because more often than not, that's what we do, and it is a problem. We must all ensure the issues of accountability and consequence management. All of us, and I was grateful to hear with a chuckle that, those of us who are in management at institutions must be arrested. Yes, if we've done wrong, please do so. You must do so. There's corruption there. I'll be the first to admit, no, it's true. Whether my colleagues don't like to hear that, there is. But equally, from all sides, including the students and student leaders, we must all be held accountable for our actions. So in closing, I want to say that I hope that this summit will herald the start of a better and a greater way forward, which will really ensure that we can talk about serious safety issues in our environment. I thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Chalifu. The marriage has begun, and we are on a journey. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, as we are about to conclude, allow me to please call up on stage the Provincial Commissioner of the Western Cape, Lieutenant General Patrick Ile, to come and do his closing remarks. A round of applause, please.
Thank you, Program Director. We have already been in discussion, and shall I just say protocol observed? Because we are in a hurry, all of us now, we've done part of what we're supposed to do today. It may not be enough, but it's a start. There's a beginning. There's always a first time for everything, and this is our first time that we meet. And that meeting, the meeting we had for the last 2 days, must have a meaning in the future of this country and the future of our next generation. And what we're doing today will determine the future of the ones that are coming behind us. Now, we've been challenged to come up, to think out of the box, to map the way forward. I must tell you, we all agreed that we don't want violence. And also the police don't want of learning, whether it be it basic education or higher learning institutions. Now, the one thing, Doctor, that is critical for me, when we come to a situation where we deal with violence, all of us, somewhere the logic is gone. Whether it is a personal relationship between a spouses, or any, when it comes to violence, we resort to that one. I think we must have exhausted all other avenues. But what bothers me is the fact that first there's a protest, then we negotiate, then there's a solution. Now, we have had these GBV violence in our learning institutions, which we can't afford. When we send our children to these institutions, we want them to come back and contribute meaningfully in the country. But now when you come as a parent, you go and fetch a body of your child has been killed in a GB incidences. It's painful. But the one thing that you must all understand as we sit here, for any crime that has been committed, there is a failure to prevent it. And that failure is not on the police only, it's on the society as well. I think that is why we're here, to say, let's prevent, let's make sure that what comes out of the universities, as we expect, is just purely professionals. Because I, as a parent, I expect that when my child comes back here, he's a professional. I expect that child, when he's at higher basic education, at the primary, high schools, is growing up with solutions, seeking solutions. Can we then, for a moment, adopt this as this forum that were problem solution forum, not a problem creators? We're looking at the solution to the problems. I think that's very important that if we mentally and psychologically, we say to ourselves, we are problem seeking and problem solvers, then our problems will be solved, because every problem has a solution. And if we've done everything and you can't solve that problem, then forget about it. It is not a problem. Don't waste your time on it. Now, the National Commissioner says, Doctor, we should not go and educate our children to be unemployed, future guaranteed unemployment. We should be looking at skills that they attain from the institutions of higher learning so that they can contribute. Now, I as a parent, now I'm talking now as a parent, not as a police officer, I have saved my money. I have ensured that everything that I've done, I'm doing for this child. But guess what? Where I come from in Cape Town, there is a street called Long Street in Cape Town, which many of you are familiar with. From 8 o'clock in the evening to 3 o'clock in the morning, all, if not all, but the majority of students are all in the clubs. Whilst they were supposed to be studying, thinking about the future of this country, planning the future of planning the economy of this country, and coming up with ideas, they are drowned in liquor and drugs. That we should also take into account. We should also be part of our puzzle to plan how best do we deal with it. Is health and what we call it in the university support system on drug abuse and liquor abuse there? If it is there, is it being utilized? Because National Commissioner was saying, criminals, they recruit in these institutions because they are breeding ground for recruitment. Yes. They steal vehicles, they park them in the campuses, and then we're looking for the vehicles around and we can't find them. They are in the campuses. And the fancy guys with big gold watches and expensive watches, they come to the students. But where do they land? In trucks. That is the question that why we should, again, all of us, say this university dropouts, what are the causes of that than any other thing of failing? Because some of the students, as we know, they are being evicted from there because they've been there 7 years or 8 years without passing even the first year, all modules of the first year. 7 years, successfully. Now, that becomes a problem that now crime, it's either that person is involved in criminal activities or is involved with other things that are not academically included in the academics of these universities. But it becomes a problem of the police. Lastly, yes, we have not been having a good relationship with the universities, especially when it comes to protest. I would be the first one to admit that. And again, you are the first one to change that around. Especially the young ones that are sitting here. You must change that around. Now, now as a general in the police, no, general knows nothing. He has got a general knowledge, not specific. But can I just request that when we go out to JMC, Youth Crime Steering Committee, and students, within 3 months, today is March, maybe in May, you should have had I don't know, we're going to call it a summit or a response to what we've done today. We must have another session where all these others, the other stakeholders that were not here, they can be given a platform to say, this is what we can be done. That's a mapping forward. Now, do we have the inventory of all of us that we're sitting here? As we have to say, Miso, we have a technical committee, or I don't know what is it, that must now convene with all representative of the what is here. Can we have that? Brigadier from the strategic session, do we have that inventory? If we don't have it, let us have it before people are leaving, and then we have that inventory so that we can have people with you. It can't only be the SAPS that compiles that. Let's have all the other people be part of this, and then next week, and as you said, in 7 days you must have produced something, then in that 7 days you could have met. Now, I don't want to talk too much now, but all I want to say to you, firstly, thank you, thank you, thank you. Give yourself a big round of applause. In closing, as you drive and you're traveling home, think about one thing. What is your role as an individual? How many people are you changing a day? Can we then go out and change one person on a daily basis? Just influence that person. Because you are leaders here. You have the ability to influence the others. Now, if we can just do that, I am certain that those students, we've taken note of the crimes that are happening between the campuses and the residents. And I hope all of us, their deputy provincial commissioners, all are sitting here, who are responsible for crime prevention. They are all sitting here, and I'm sure we've taken note of that. Perhaps let us up our game on that one. And I'm sure we can start there, having community safety patrollers from the students and the police there and the sector managers. Perhaps that's the one thing that we must look at it. Let me thank the organizers of this session, Brigadier Shumane and General Motlala in absentia, the JMC and the Youth Crime Prevention. But before we go, can I just ask the junior provincial commissioners, they have not been seen by many of you, to come here to just to thank them. They are most going to take over from you students that are already in the universities. So where are they? Are they here? Please come forward just to acknowledge you, all of you. Where are they? Please. I don't even see my PC here now, it's gone. Yo? Please stand that way. Now you've seen, you've heard what your sisters ahead of you are saying. Now you've seen and you heard what we as your parents are saying. Now it means that you got an enormous task, a responsibility where you are, and one of you are saying, let us start at this basic education, which we have elected you to be junior PCs in those areas, so that when we get to the institutions of higher learning, we have a meaningful role. Thank you very much. We appreciate your presence. Yeah, thank you. Then the CPFs that are with us, thank you very much. We really appreciate yourselves, students, much appreciated. Maybe you should have invited us, but now we invited ourselves to yourselves. But anyway, thank you for the contribution. We appreciate that. The most, this institution, Doctor, I don't know what was the name, I forgot now. Now, please, in absentia, we want to thank them. Our gratitude goes to them for allowing us to be here. And they have given this place for 2 days. We have taken over this place. And what I've seen also, the security and access control that I've seen, we want to thank those people to say thank you very much for that kind of access control that we've seen here. They must keep up with the good work. Hopefully, this campus will not have rape, will not have robberies, will not have theft of motor vehicles, because I see the people that are dedicated doing crime prevention, and the students that are here, they make sure that there will be no crime in Mbombela. So we're inviting you also, when you are not here, be part of this community, be part of the sector crime forums and CPFs, so that you can also study. As you study, you also do your part as a citizen of this country. The last thing that I also want to say, these junior PCs, we should not lose them. I know the one from KZN is studying in UCT. We are utilizing her like nobody's business. She is not resting because where's KZN? Is there anyone from KZN? Your junior PCs for the previous, she's not resting there. She is engaged with my PC, she's engaged with our stakeholders engagement and public engagement, she's engaged. So that's a kind of what we want to see also going on in all other provinces. By those few words, may God bless you, be good, be safe, and Merry Christmas. Thank you.
Thank you very much, General. Ladies and gentlemen, you've been an awesome audience, and lunch is served. Thank you. Can we allow our generals to move out first before we all do, ladies and gentlemen? Thank you. Can we allow the generals to move out before we all do? Thank you.